Presented by FantasyAlarm.com on Bettor Sports Network.
Handoff to Barkley. Runs out of an arm tackle. Inside the 20. Barkley cuts left to the 15. He's to the 10. He's to the 5. Touchdown, Giants! Saquon Barkley on a 36-yard run.
Robinson finds a hole around the left side. Watch out! Brian Robinson to the house.
This time, Hurts gives it off, and he runs with the football and keeps it and takes it across the 5 and rolls down to the 2. Is he in? Yes!
He is.
Touchdown, Jalen Hurts.
That's magic.
A great fake to Sanders.
Getting you ready for NFL action with information, advice, and entertainment. The Game Day Playbook presented by FantasyAlarm.com on Bettor Sports Network.
What is going on, everybody? John and Pemba here with Andrew Cooper. Welcome into the Game Day Playbook presented by Fantasy Alarm. Coop, it is week 5 of the NFL season. We have yet another London game going on this morning, kicking off at 9:30. We have the New York Giants going up against the Green Bay Packers. So some more morning madness for us here during week 5 of the NFL season. Of course, we have plenty of injury news to discuss today, some start-sit questions that Coop and I are going to be answering for you guys. We know some of you out there are 1-3, you're 0-4, you're looking for a win this week. You got to keep your seasons alive. Get in the chat. Go to your iTunes store, go to your Google Play store, download the Bettor Sports Network app, join the show, subscribe, get your questions into Coop and I. Let us help you get that victory this week. Coop, how we doing?
Doing phenomenal, guys. And we already got people in the chat. Stone Cold says, morning, let's go. Let's go, baby. We got getting the game. Tommy, morning, guys. Football all day. This is how it's going to work here, guys. We got a lot of questions to get through, a lot of games to get through. So we're going to hit each game. We see your questions in the chat. What we're going to do is we're going to add them to the first applicable game. So say you come out and say, hey, I got to start Jeff Wilson or I got to start Tyler Algier. Whatever game's first on the show sheet, whether it's the 49ers game or it's the Falcons game, we're going to put it right in there. When we get to that game, we're going to hit on that question. All right, so get those in there. Hang tight with us. We're going to hit your questions. If you want to skip the line and get your question answered right now, there's 2 ways to do it. 1, you got a player in the game at 9:30. We're going to answer those right away. That game's coming up. 2, call in on the Bettor Sports app. We'll put you on. You could be on video. You could be on just a call. You can ask your question right away. We'll answer it right away. All right, let's get going.
Yeah, we have a lot to get to today. And Coop, let's kick it off, I think, with some of the injury news that we've talked about for the early game here. And I think the biggest one so far is the fact that Brian Robinson is active for not Brian Robinson, rather. The Kadarius Toney is out, rather, for the Giants here. That wide receiver group continues to be hampered for the Giants here. Early morning game. What are your thoughts on this Giants wide receiver situation as they face Green Bay this morning?
What an absolute mess. I mean, the one guy who is kind of a bright spot, Sterling Shepard, tragically already out for the entire season. Kenny Golladay, Kadarius Toney didn't even fly. They're still in America, right? Richie James rolled his ankle. So we're talking the healthiest guy who plays the most snaps is David Sills, right? You can't trust that guy. Darius Slayton, who is kind of relegated to special teams, back to being a full-time guy. So those are probably your 3 wide receivers, unless Wan'Dale Robinson. Do we know the news on him? I've been kind of tracking a little bit, and it hasn't been definitive as far as I've seen. I think so. He's been ruled out already now too.
Yeah.
Perfect. So those are your guys. I mean, if you want to take a random, that's the beautiful thing about this showdown slate, though, because usually it's like you know who the chalk is, who isn't. In this one, a lot of random stabs, kind of fun.
Yeah, they're right, especially when you're playing that showdown slate, and we have the showdown playbook over on Fantasy Alarm right now. Dan Malin wrote that up for this morning, so go to FantasyAlarm.com and check that out on the site, breaking down your showdown action. We're looking at this game here, Coop, and what are your thoughts on the Giants' ability to even compete here? Green Bay is an 8-point favorite. It's a 41.5 game total. Do you think that after what we've seen out of Green Bay lately, their offense really hasn't looked too great at times? They've been using the dual running backs. We've finally seen Allen Lazard step up. We've seen Romeo Doubs solidify himself. Is there a way that you think maybe the Giants can even cover this spread here?
There's only one way. There's only 2 words, John. Saquon Barkley. He has been an absolute animal, back to his old self. Daniel Jones is going to play, but he's got a banged up ankle here. So no more vulturing touchdowns for Daniel Jones either. So Saquon Barkley is the one guy from this team that I'm definitely starting wherever I have him. Obviously, at this point, that's the case.
Yeah, we saw the Patriots have some success running the ball against Green Bay last week, right. So certainly a possibility that you see Saquon Barkley come through big here today. So again, if you guys have questions pertaining to this Giants Green Bay Packers game, get it to us. Get them in the chat, get them in the YouTube, tweet at us, however you want. Coop and I are here, help you guys get your lineup set for this 9:30 game. And we have a question in the chat already. Which tight end do you like in this 9:30 game? Obviously, we know the Giants have a couple of options you've been touting. Maybe a sleeper tight end on the Giants lately. And then, of course, we have Robert Tonyan on the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, I'll tell you, everybody and their uncle is going to be starting Robert Tonyan, right? So I'm pivoting off that. And, your first thought is probably going to be Daniel Bellinger. But here's the rub on that. He only ran 10 routes last week. Tanner Hudson is the guy who's lining up in the slot at wide receiver. He ran 17 routes. On the season, he's lined up at wide receiver for more snaps, run more routes. He hasn't gotten the targets just yet. But if I'm picking one of these guys, I'm going with the guy that has the better usage. And he's going to be, not only is it better usage, but you look at something like DraftKings and Daniel Bellinger's $3,600. Tanner Hudson's only $1,200. So You can do a lot of creative things if you use Hudson instead. He's literally the cheapest player that's not $300. And the dudes that are $300 usually don't even play. So get him in your lineup, freeze you up to get Saquon in there, and then pick your poison with the Packers players. And let me ask you while we're on it, John, if you have to pick one, Allen Lazard, Romeo Doubs, who you like?
I think I'm going to go Doubs just because of the more recent consistent production. But I mean, we've talked a lot about it at Fantasy Alarm. Of course, Howard Bender does our playbook over there. He's been a pretty high proponent of Allen Lazard this season, tweeting it out that he thinks come season's end, he and Mike Williams may have the same stat line, come the end of the year. And first 100-yard game last week from Lazard. We've seen him now catch touchdowns in a couple of weeks as well. So, everybody thought going into this year that Allen Lazard was going to be that number one guy. Doubs popped during training camp. Doubs has since popped a few times now during the regular season. So I'm going to go with Doubs here. I think he just may be the more explosive player on that offense right now.
Yeah, I love it, man. I think that's got to be the way to go at this point. So lock it in.
Kev Tompkins in chat saying Allen Lazard is his bat signals. Obviously,
he hears
the name because listen, Kev's the one who featured Allen Lazard in his Targets article this week. So he was on the cover and in the title. So clearly, he's all about the Allen Lazard there. I had nothing to do with that. I promise you, nothing to do with putting Allen Lazard on the cover of that article for him there. So again, we have a lot to talk about today, Coop. We have a big day on the station in general. After us, of course, we have Front Yard Fantasy show there from 9 to 11. We also have the Bettor Zone there with Corey, Adam as well after that show. So you got to stay along with the show all day there. Holden Kushner and Greg Leonard as well from 5 to 8. So no reason to leave the channel today, Coop. For us to the end of the day, carrying you through all of NFL Sunday, we're here to bring you all the action.
I have one reason to leave. Because someone decided, because tomorrow is a holiday here, that they were going to have their wedding today on a Sunday during football. Can you imagine?
You have a wedding to go to today?
Which side do you think this wedding is on? Do you think this is one of my friends, or do you think this is one of my
Certainly
fiance's
not one of your friends. I'm just surprised that you even I would have said I can't go. Listen, football is work.
I'm working.
That's my excuse for everything. I can't work on Sundays. It's football day.
Trust me, John. It's at Granite Links. Granite Links.
I know Granite Links.
I know where to find the TVs there. I am going to mysteriously disappear because I will be working for a good chunk of the day. So trust me.
Bring your driver. They got a great driving range. They can hit off the grass tees. There's really nothing better than hitting off the grass tees and driving. No mats. Which more people would go to the grass there as well.
Better for your clubs.
Yeah, better, way better for your clubs for sure. So that's a little bit of the early Thursday, early Sunday rather football game. There are too many games, too many days here, Coop. But we have some more. We have more news to get to. Like I alluded to at the beginning of the show, Brian Robinson's active today, right? So that's a pretty big situation there with Washington. Going into the year, it looked like Brian Robinson was going to be the lead running back over Antonio Gibson. Antonio Gibson was relegated to kickoff duties during the preseason. Then all of a sudden, the unfortunate incident there where Robinson was shot during a robbery attempt. He lands on IR. He's been practicing now for over a week. back in the lineup. We get a report this morning. They expect Brian Robinson to play around 20 snaps. So how does that make it? How does that impact your opinion of Gibson? Do you put Robinson in lineups? Any DFS interest at all in Brian Robinson today?
You know, we knew this day would come, right? And the thing with this player and the DFS is that it's because of how big the news story has been, it's not as sneaky of a play as you think it is. So basically you're taking all the risk without as much of the reward because there's going to be a lot of people doing what you're doing. I think in this case, it's better just to pass this week, see what it looks like, right? See what it looks like with what the split is like with those three guys. And then next week, you can actually assess it fairly. I know you'll miss out if he like comes out and has this crazy game, but I really am not expecting him to do that. 20 snaps, and again, when they say 20 snaps, they're probably assuming it's a normal game, which is 60 to 65 snaps. So we're talking about a third of the snaps, maybe. So I'm probably out on this one. We got a question already, an early one. Since you're the first one in here, we're just going to knock it for you. Foxborough News asks, Raheem Mostert, Hunter Renfrow, 14-man full PPR. Hunter Renfrow has been out recently with concussion, but he is expected to play. And then, of course, Raheem Mostert has been the hotter hand in a hot hand backfield with the Miami Dolphins. So right now he's the guy, but you never know who could be the guy at any moment. A couple of weeks ago, Chase Edmonds scored both the touchdowns. So, Johnny, where are you going on this one? Full PPR.
Yeah, full PPR, given the fact that it is a matchup against the Chiefs, and Carr's actually had a lot of success throwing against the Chiefs here, I may lean Renfrow in full PPR in this one. Again, we've seen Adams and Waller obviously have some kind of up and down days at times. They get a lot of that coverage there. I think if Renfrow is going to be active like we're expecting him to be in a full PPR, I'm good with it. That said, Mostert is one of my favorite value running backs for DFS this week. Really great matchup for him against a Jets team that doesn't really stop the run too much. So, I do like it in seasonal, but, the fact that we're in a 14-man league, it's a full PPR, and the game total between that Raiders and Chiefs game, I got to go Renfrow there.
Yep, I'm fully on board with that. I was going to say the same.
We got another question here going towards a game that starts obviously at 9:30 today with the Packers and Giants. Full PPR needs to start 2 wide receivers, DJ Moore, Romeo Doubs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Tyler Boyd. We know we like Doubs, and I got to think we're going St. Brown here as well.
Got him. Can't go away from St. Brown, man. I don't honestly, I'll tell you this right now. I was wrong, man. I didn't think that he was going to be as involved, but he's been lighting it up when he's healthy, going back to last year. Can't go away from that player right now. Boyd doesn't play every snap because he's the guy that comes out for the extra tight end. And then DJ Moore is just a product of the Baker Mayfield traveling circus now. Making his second stop in Carolina, probably not going to be there too long. So can't really trust that guy.
For sure. We got a lot of these early questions coming in, so I'm just going to hit them so we don't miss them there.
Yeah, let's knock them out.
Dylan, Khalil Herbert, or J.K. Dobbins?
Can't start Herbert with Montgomery playing, unfortunately. So, I mean, Dobbins looked amazing last week. I'm going to start J.K. Dobbins of these two guys, unless the Patriots, the one shining thing for the Patriots has been the run defense hasn't been too bad. Christian Barmore's good.
Their defense in general actually hasn't been too bad, honestly.
Pretty good. Yeah.
So I kind of, when I was making some DFS lineups earlier today, I had a Patriots defense in there, and I'm like, no one's going to play them because the Lions have the number one offense in football, but they've been sneaky good there. And then we have one more, Coop. Full PPR, Lazard, Renfrow, or Duvernay today. No Rashad Bateman for Baltimore Ravens.
I'm going with Lazard. I mean, I can't. He's playing virtually every snap for that team, and it's a good matchup versus the Giants for me. I don't know, John. Do you like somebody else off that list?
No, I think that's where I'm going to go there as well. Duvernay, there feels like there's too much risk involved in that game, for him. Even though, again, we're looking at a game against the Bengals, should be a lot of scoring in that game. We've never really seen Duvernay be that kind of guy that you can rely on week in, week out. They want to run the football out there, so I would go Lazard there as well, especially full PPR. And we've talked about how bad the Giants D can be at times. So again, if you guys have questions on those early games, 9:30, get them in. Coop and I will certainly go ahead and help you jump the line to get those questions answered. We mentioned already that Renfrow is returning from his concussion, likely to play there for Monday Night Football. We also have Andy Dalton starting today for the Saints, continuing some of our top news there. No Jameis Winston, no Michael Thomas again for the Saints. They go up at home against a Seattle defense. We just saw the Lions hang 45 or 43, whatever it was, on them last week. What are your thoughts on the Saints offense being led by Andy Dalton today? If you're playing DFS, you go over the fantasy line, you look at our draft percentage forecaster. Chris Olave is one of the highest expected rostered wide receivers on the day.
I mean, Andy Dalton clearly had, and we see this all the time. Cooper Rush comes in. He has some plays that he worked out in practice, some timing routes, some chemistry with Noah Brown. Noah Brown gets the targets. Andy Dalton comes in, and we see that he's got some guys that he likely worked with in practice. Marquise Callaway, Adam Troutman. But, as we see oftentimes with these backups, they get chemistry with the starters and then the shift. Cooper Rush starts throwing at CeeDee Lamb. I think we start seeing that shift. You can't start Troutman anywhere because he only played 10 snaps. I think Olave is going to be involved. He was already involved. I think we do see a little more Jarvis Landry and a little more Juwan Johnson. So those are the guys I would consider out of that group. Can't go for Callaway. Can't go for Troutman for me personally.
Yeah, you got to go, obviously, the top guys there. Again, this is just an offense where Andy Dalton on DraftKings especially, only $5,200 as your starting quarterback today. Olave's under $6K. Kamara's only $6,600 over on DraftKings today. Juwan Johnson, I know a favorite tight end of yours off and on, it seems like. He's like $3,000 on DraftKings. So you have a pretty inexpensive Saints stack today in a matchup against a Seattle team. That game opened at 43. At last checked, it was up to 45.5 for a game total. So people are starting to bet up this matchup between Seattle and New Orleans today. It could be a sneaky game or maybe not so sneaky given the rostership expectations there when it comes to DFS this week.
Yeah, it's tough to play that game for me as of late. It's only the ones that are like the sneaky plays that everyone's doing that I'm caring about ownership, like the Brian Robinson. That's not a secret, right? But like when it comes to most other guys, I'm just leaning into the plays that I believe are the best, because sometimes you have to have the chalk. We do a little good chalk, bad chalk sometimes. Sometimes there's just a play like Jamal Williams the other week. When the prices came out before Swift was ruled out, had to happen, right? Just a reminder to everybody out there in the YouTube and throwing questions on the app that we're gonna hit all these questions. A lot of them we're gonna I'm gonna be in the YouTube chat, maybe answering a couple in there. A lot of them, if we have a really interesting one, we're gonna take it and we're gonna put it with that game for the day. So I've already got a couple. For instance, the question on Cade Otton, we're gonna hit that shortly when we get to the Buccaneers game. That's a really good question. So there's a few of them that stay tuned with us. We're gonna get to those when we get to those games. So we're definitely gonna hit on all your questions here. Keep them coming in the chat. We're gonna knock them out. Adam says, does Zeke score today? I'll hit that right now. Yes, I think he does. I think with Tony Pollard being a little banged up, Zeke was already the goal line guy. I think that team is highly capable of getting the ball down to the red area. Zeke is definitely a over 50% touchdown scorer for me.
Yeah, we are getting official inactives for the Giants today, as we talked about earlier. Just to recap, Wan'Dale Robinson and Kadarius Toney, Kenny Golladay all out still. So those are their top three receivers, basically, all ruled out for today already. Getting the game in our chat wants to know for a sleeper DFS QB, Dalton, Goff, or Kenny Pickett. Pickett going up against Buffalo, Goff against New England, and Dalton against Seattle. I think you got to go Dalton there.
Yeah, I like Dalton. I know, honestly, Goff isn't too bad. Goff has been great, even with the terrible pass catchers last week, dropped 45 points.
Yeah,
you're starting Kenny Pickett against one of the best defenses in what I've seen is going to be a fairly windy game, somewhere in the 15 to 20 mile an hour per range. Last I saw us at 17. We're going to get an update today at some point. We'll make sure to give that to you, but just be real careful with that one with Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one as well. Again, more questions coming in for this 9:30 game. Romeo Doubs or AJ Dillon today? I'm guessing this is a flex question.
I think I'm going the upside play with Romeo. Like we said, he plays like every snap, which is that's the first thing that you see with these rookies before they really start breaking out. Is like you get the snaps, then you get the targets, then you get the points.
Yep, I agree with you on that one. And another AJ Dillon question: half PPR, AJ Dillon or Curtis Samuel today?
If it's full PPR, I'm going with Curtis Samuel. If it's standard or half, it's AJ Dillon.
Yeah.
Curtis
Does
Samuel
the
is
fact
that.
that Jahan Dotson not being active today impact your decision making at all?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Curtis Samuel is about as safe as it gets, right?
He won't get you many yards pre-catch. You know, what did you say his ADOT is? It's
Wow.
it's like a yard off the line of scrimmage basically is where they throw in the football, and anything after that, the yards come to him. So the half PPR obviously takes a little bit of a hit there. Dillon, he knows, going to get double-digit carries and maybe a catch or two. We just expected more touchdowns, I think, out of AJ Dillon at some point this season, and we haven't really gotten those yet. So I may lead Curtis Samuel this week without Jahan Dotson. I really like this matchup today for Washington against Tennessee. And again, we'll be sure to hit that as we start doing our game breakdowns. Again, we're touching upon this game here at 9:30 between the Giants and Packers. We're also going to have Nick Durst back with us here, Coop, today. We're going to go out to MetLife, where the Dolphins are in New York to face the Jets. We're going to have Nick, a man in the lot, right out there asking questions, talking to you guys, see what you're grilling up, seeing what you have, any fantasy questions, any betting questions for Coop and I. So we're going to have a lot of that going on today. And again, we want you here with us for the game day playbook throughout the show and staying with the station throughout the day. To do so, you have to go on to your iTunes or Google Play Store, download the Bettor Sports app, sign up, click join show, be a part of everything that we have going on today. Like I said, after us, from 11 to 1, we have Front Yard Fantasy with Simon, Joey, and JL. 1 to 5, we have Better Zone with Corey, Adam, and Scott. And once again, 5 to 8, we have Holden Kushner and Greg Lanyard on the Better Zone as well. And then in the morning, you can spin it all right back and you get Coop's pretty face again with the Front Yard Fantasy Show Monday morning. So we have a lot more to talk about, Coop. Again, this game kicks off at 9:30. So, as we continue to sort of break down the news as it happens, there's going to be a lot more to get to as we get updated.
Yeah. So ask those questions now. If you have a question with a guy that's in this game or on one of those teams, we'll answer it right away because we're up against the clock. Right now, Tanner Nelson asked, Amari Cooper, should I trade any of these wide receivers? Amari Cooper, Michael Thomas, Brandon Cooks, or CeeDee Lamb? If you need wide receiver help and your team is kind of in the hole, I would trade Michael Thomas now for whatever you can. This is a guy where, he gets banged up and then he turns into a different guy or doesn't even come back, as we've seen. I don't trust. If you can get a player you can use in the immediate future from Michael Thomas, that's the guy that I would move of that group.
Yeah, I agree. He's probably got the lowest value of any of them. So there's definitely a chance you could sell low a little bit, but we just don't know when he's going to come back, and that's the problem, right? Like a lot of times we say, like with players like that, you want to sell them when they pop. Well, He may have already popped weeks 1 and 2. He found the end zone. Now he's been hurt for 2 weeks. Got to miss another one, and when he comes back, where's his value at now? You need him to come back and be productive, or else the trade value is so low.
And you can't trade Amari Cooper coming off the bad game. Like the week to trade him was the week before. CeeDee Lamb's rock solid. Brandon Cooks actually is a guy that you could consider trading as well, just because he carries the name value, but the team isn't really throwing at a high level right now. He's been okay. So if you can package him with something else and get an upgrade, a little 2-for-1 where you get the better player, that's the kind of move I would strongly consider.
Yep, I agree with you there. Here's a list, Scoop, of our main inactives so far today, guys. Already ruled out. Keenan Allen, Michael Thomas, Tua obviously is out. Tyrod Taylor, backup quarterback there for the Giants, got hurt last week. Dawson Knox is out. DeAndre Swift, Quintez Cephas, DJ Chark are all out for the Lions today. Amon-Ra St. Brown is expected to play, but going to be a game time decision. Kyle Pitts, not that he feels like he's been active this season in general. He's inactive today due to a hamstring injury. Cameron Brate out for the Buccaneers. Treylon Burks on IR. Tough blow for our friend Britt Flynn there. I know she's a big fan of Treylon Burks this season. Turf toe landing on him on IR. Jahan Dotson out with a hammy. Brevin Jordan out today for the Texans. Maybe an OJ Howard sighting in DFS. We'll talk about that as we hit up that game between the Texans and Jaguars today. Jake Elliott out. Matt Prater out, a pair of kickers. Rashad Bateman out for the Ravens. Tyler Kroft, Laviska Shenault all out for today. So that's the news we have right now, Coop, when it comes to injuries. I'm seeing a lot more questions coming in pertaining to this morning game. Again, let me hit some of these quickly. A.J. Dillon or Devin Singletary today?
Singletary. Can't go away from Singletary right now. He's got a good matchup. He's literally leading the league in routes run for a running back. Who would have guessed, right, Johnny?
No kidding. I certainly wouldn't listen. I was high on Devin Singletary. If you listen to the Fantasy Football podcast, I was touting him all offseason, but it wasn't for his pass catching acumen. It was just for the fact that I thought they were going to use him more running the football.
Runs like 5 yards a carry. Career-wise, like 4.5, 5 yards a carry.
Like you said, with 17-mile-an-hour winds and they're a 14-point favorite. Last week, Devin Singletary carried the ball a lot against Baltimore. This could be another repeat of that. So I think it's certainly possible. Then we have Alan Zard or Jeff Wilson. What are your thoughts here? Jeff Wilson running up against Carolina today.
Alan Lazard or Jeff Wilson. Man, the thing with Jeff Wilson is he really is playing all the snaps. I think until Elijah Mitchell gets back, Jeff Wilson's in my lineup.
Yep, I agree with you there as well. Just the touchdown upside he has, I think, given now that they have Jimmy G as the quarterback there. Would you risk Amon-Ra St. Brown again? He's expected to play today, or do you take the sure thing starting Romeo Doubs now?
Oh, geez, dude, that's tough because I don't know if Doubs, like Amon-Ra, even a hurt Amon-Ra is probably getting.
Does the Patriots secondary worry you though? Listen, if you like, we talked about it the other day. If you believe the Pro Football Focus PFF grades, Jack Jones and Jonathan Jones are the top 2 rated cornerbacks through 4 weeks.
Now, the thing is, though, he plays out of the slot, and they're really missing Kyle Duggar. Are Duggar and Adrian Phillips going to play today? Because I think that's the problem the Patriots have been having with tight end is that Duggar's good versus tight end, but without him, he hasn't played pretty much all year. Patriots have actually let up the most touchdowns to the tight end. They're not playing well versus slot. I think I would start Romeo Doubs just because the injury, and Doubs has been good enough in his own right. But
they expect him to play, so I agree with you. I think Amon-Ra makes sense there. So
Amon-Ra,
but if you're really worried about the injury risk and you have nobody else to play, you got to go Doubs. He's active,
right?
So.
Yeah, it's an upside versus a floor play.
Yep, I agree with you there. Doubs over 48.5 receiving yards today. Yeah, I'll take the over on that. Mr. Scamper's there. I'm in. I agree with you with that question. And then another question here. Victor Sosa wants to know Dylan Boyd or Gabe Davis and a flex.
Ooh, baby. I think I
PPR,
would.
PPR, by the way. PPR flex.
PPR flex. So I'm not going to go Boyd. It's either Dylan or Gabe Davis for me. If it wasn't so windy, I would say Gabe Davis. I might still say Gabe Davis. That's a guy who played every snap last week. Even though he hasn't really produced, that guy's a threat to score at any given time. He's basically the new Adam Thielen. That's what I'm looking at. That's the way he feels to me, where he plays every snap. He's a high A-dot guy. He's, probably not going to knock your socks off with 150 yards unless he gets loose on one, but he's a at least 50-50 to score any given week. So I think I would go Gabe Davis there. What do you think, John?
Yeah, I think he just gives you your highest upside. Dylan has probably the safest floor of that group. Davis, again, flex PPR. The wins, like you mentioned, but sometimes the wins aren't as impactful. Like the gusts versus the steady wins, like, the impact that has there, potentially there. So again, 2 more minutes until this game kicks off here, Coop. We've had obviously the inactives in there. We've talked about the Packers being an 8-point favorite with a 41.5 game total. The Giants are missing their top 3 receivers. We're believing this is basically a Barkley day for the Giants, or Green Bay here is just gonna roll. So we'll see if any more questions come in before we go. Remember, we're gonna have Nick Durst coming on with us here to go man in the lot for this Jets Dolphins game here, Coop. So when we get back, we're going to be joined by Nick. Again, if you want to be part of the show, you want to call in, you want to get our questions in, you got to download the app. You got to go to your iTunes store, your Google Play store. You got to download, subscribe, get going on in here with us, and come on the show with Coop and I.
Yep, and just a reminder to guys, we're hitting the relevant questions for this early game right now. We see all the questions in the chat. I'm adding them to the show sheet for the relevant games. So we're going to hit all those, like, bee growing stuff. I see your question. Victor Souza, Kembo, ABCDEFG. We see you. So we see those questions. I got them locked and loaded. We're going through the game slate, and we're going to hit all those questions. So hang tight with us. We're going to knock them out. Just want to make sure anybody that's got these, questions for games right now, last minute questions, we got to hit those first.
Yep, I agree with you. So like I said, this game is starting in a minute. When Coop and I get back, we're going to start previewing the rest of the games. We're going to continue to answer your start sit questions. We're going to be joined by Nick Durst out at MetLife Series. This is the Game Day Playbook presented by Fantasy Alarm on the Bettor Sports Network. We're still here.
The Playbook with Fensty and Ronis, presented by FantasyAlarm.com.
The only person, I've said this to you before, who I believe back then, of all those power hitters who truly was clean, Ken Griffey Jr.
I mean, I think so when he got hurt.
Body didn't change.
We'll never know that for sure either.
No, dude.
We've seen guys who were not big take substances.
That's true.
To get busted. So it's not about that, always.
I hear you. It's just, don't you think with the way his career kind of went, you would think that he didn't take anything?
I don't think he did, but we'll never know 100%.
I'm going to keep telling myself that he didn't. The 1 year player, I mean, he's my favorite baseball player of all time. In the 1990s, Ron, as a kid, as a 5-year-old kid who plays video games and collected cards, there was no one cooler than Ken Griffey Jr. I still wear my hat backwards because Ken Griffey Jr. did it and he looked really cool doing that, wearing a backwards baseball cap. Like, he made everything the guy did looked cool. Even the home run in the movie Little Big League, it's acting, it's all, I guess, fake, but even he made that look cool. I mean, Ken Griffey Jr., you're a little bit older than me, but in the 90s, besides Michael Jordan, was there a more loved athlete than Ken Griffey Jr.?
Yeah, no, I love Griffey. He's one of my favorite players ever, from defensively to hitting his swing. And yeah, I would have loved to see what he could have done if he had stayed healthy, the final numbers he finished with. So, no, I was a huge fan of Ken Griffey, and it's a shame, though, that all those injuries towards the end of his career just really limited the production he put up, but he still put up elite numbers. He was so fun to watch. So I'm a huge Ken Griffey guy.
And here's the other thing, too. So 1994, the season got shortened because of the strike.
And he finished with 40 homers in 111 games that year, man. And then he had 56 2 years in a row, 97 and 98, and then 48. He had a stretch 4 years in a row, 49, 56, 56, 48, 40. I mean, unbelievable. And then, yeah, once he hit like 31, he started to miss games, 111, 70, 53, 83. So think about that, all those years that he lost, and he still hit 630 home runs, man. Yeah. So if he was clean, he would have been the all-time home run champion. Again, we're all guessing here, but you would think, all right, well, once he got into age 31, 32, that's when the body started breaking out, which is typical, right, for someone who's not using anything, whereas we saw Barry Bonds just get better with age. And we did not see that with Griffey. So look at 2001, where he's 31, he played on, look at the home runs decline, 8, 13, 20, 35, 27, 30, 18, 15 to his age 38 season. Even age 39 in 170 games, he had 19 home runs. So he probably would have definitely been the all-time home run leader had he been able to stay healthy.
Bettor Sports Network. It's sports talk done better.
Welcome back in, everybody. This is the Game Day Playbook presented by Fantasy Alarm. John and Pemba here with Andrew Cooper. And as we said before, we're getting ready to be joined by Nick Durst, man on the street out there at MetLife Stadium, previewing the fans there with the Dolphins going into New York to face the Jets today. And remember, we're going to continue to break down today's game action. We're going to continue to get your questions answered. And we want you to be part of the Bettor Sports Network all day long for your NFL coverage. Go to your app store, iTunes, Google Play, download the Bettor Sports Network app, sign up, hit join show, get in the action, get in the chat section. Maybe you can even call in, come on live with Coop and I here, and stick with the channel all day long. Front Yard Fantasy Show on After Us there with Simon, Joey, and JL. Better Zone 1 to 5 with Corey, Adam, and Scott, and then also Better Zone with Holden Kushner and Greg Leonard from 5 to 8. I believe we have Nick ready to come on with us. So, Nick, can you hear us?
You got to get him up and running. I love this, man. Nothing gets me more fired up than seeing boots on the ground. Even though we can't go to the games today ourselves, get a little bit of that game day feeling. Yeah, a little bit of that pre-game feeling.
Hey,
Morning,
how's it going, guys?
How we doing?
Awesome, dude. Awesome.
So right now, if I wasn't freezing right now, I would think I'm in Miami because there's so many Dolphins fans here, and they are piling in, which is pretty awesome. So we'll try to get to some of them throughout the day. But first, we'll make a little history here on the Bettor Sports Network. For the first time ever, we're going to show a live stream of an NFL football game. There it is. We got the London game going on.
Let's go.
Of course, the Giants and the Packers. There's actually a bunch of dogs here. So we're in the dog pound, even though we're not. The Bengals fans are gone, but we also got here's a Dolphins fan, big Jason Taylor guy.
Legend.
And there's a lot of excitement here after last week. Look at this gentleman's shirt. Show it off there. It says Zach Wilson is good, and I totally agree. He had a really great game last week to lead his team to victory. But I do have some fans here who were like asking me about Bettor Sports Network, and they said, I got some fantasy questions. So here we are, a nice father and son. So before we get to the fantasy question first, we'll speak to this kid here and say, what do you liking about being on a tailgate today?
Perfect weather for a tailgate.
Yeah.
Perfect blue sky, perfect temperature. Usually it's like hot or like raining or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's perfect weather.
Good weather. All right.
Love that, dude.
And
Let's
over
go.
here, we have his father. So what are you drinking right now?
It's too early for White Claw, so we're going with Coke.
I like
There you
it.
go, dude.
Coca-Cola at 9:35 in the morning. And what are you planning to eat today?
Definitely burgers. Pretty
Burgers.
simple guy.
All
Not
right.
really into the slider thing. Couple
Fair enough.
burgers.
Fair enough. All right. So we have a fantasy question here for you guys. So I'll let him ask it, and then you guys can answer, and I'll relay the response to them.
Yeah.
What's your question?
All right, so now that Zach Wilson is back for the Jets, should I start Garrett Wilson in fantasy?
So the question was, now that Zach Wilson is back for the Jets, should he start Garrett Wilson in fantasy?
Yeah,
So-
I think so. I mean, we saw Corey Davis obviously last week be the leading receiver there. We know Elijah Moore is running a lot of snaps, but I think eventually Garrett Wilson's going to prove to be the top receiver on that team. What do you think, Coop?
Yeah, I mean, with Wilson coming back, with Zach Wilson coming back, Garrett Wilson played more snaps than he has all year, more than Corey Davis for the first time. He ran 38 of 44 routes, only 2 less routes than Elijah Moore. He's pretty locked in for me right now. The upside's too good.
All right. So they're saying the upside's really good. You got to go with him, lock him in. Could be a really big season. So happy we can answer your question there. So as we continue to walk around, thank you, gentlemen. I mean, this is just like a massive camper bus.
Yeah, those look like professional tailgaters right there. They know what they're doing.
The Jets fans, I mean, I was on with you previously with the Giants. The Jets fans, they're out here early, and they pack this place. There's buses
They have a
all over
lot
the
more to be
place.
excited about, honestly, with their team, with the rebuild that they've had with Robert Saleh. They got Zach Wilson, Breece Hall, more. Like, that team is really coming together. Dwayne Brown back for them today, Coop. That could be a big addition to that offensive line.
Yeah, and they're definitely very excited here. We got fans all over the place here. We're on Bettor Sports Network, guys. What's going on? Any fantasy questions or betting questions about?
Fins for the win. Fins for the win. Teddy Bridgewater's going to throw for over 300. He's throwing 150 to Tyreek Hill.
And Raheem Moser over rushing yards. Lock it in.
He's
I like that one.
over 70.
All right, what do you think, guys? Accurate stuff there.
I like the Mostert overcall. That's a good one.
How do you feel about the head coach of the Dolphins?
He's very good. He's offensive minded. We don't need Flores. He's a scrub. Flores is a scrub. We got rid of him. It's a lock today. We're going to win at least plus 14. Dolphins by 14.
Dolphins by 14.
We
got a Jets fan.
Teddy Bridgewater over 0.5 interceptions. Lock it in.
Over 0.5 interceptions. Any questions for fantasy or experts or sports?
Don't start Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle because Sauce is just going to absolutely.
All right, so don't start Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle. You're going to lock them down.
What's the lock today?
What's the lock? The fans are pumped up. We'll keep going here. Let's see that hat. Let's see your hat. Put that hat on.
Ready?
A true mark of a Jets fan is a bucket hat.
Bucket hat, dude. Yeah.
The fucking day. Sorry, I don't know if you're allowed to curse. My bad.
You are. Go ahead.
Breece Hall over 17.5 receiving yards.
Better
We're
Sports
throwing him the
Network.
ball. Look for maybe 2.5 catches. I think that's the line there, but over 17.5 receiving yards.
All right, so obviously they are pumped up. And now we got some really big football fans here who are just
The
chilling
Jets
in the
fans are
back
definitely
of a
more
truck.
engaging than the Giants are.
How excited are you for this game today? What are you most looking forward to?
This is the best part right now.
Doesn't get better than the tailgate, apparently. Do you agree?
Chiefs fan, but we're here for the friends.
Here for the friends, here for the food. It's a good time right now, good vibes. There's, of course, cornhole. We got this big Zach Wilson fan here.
I'm not a big Jets fan, but I will support the Jets for today.
All right. Big fan, fins up.
We know Zach Wilson's girlfriend.
This fan here is it a Mark Sanchez jersey, and she just told me fins up, so she has no clue what she's doing.
Huge fan.
Go Cowboys!
So, so you know, she says she knows Zach Wilson's girlfriend, so she's wearing a Zach Wilson shirt to support Zach. How do you know her? How do you know her and Zach?
She's from our town.
Oh. Potentially, they know Zach Wilson's mom as well. So we will continue here walking around. This guy's got a football here. It's not quite noon yet, but he is drinking a high noon. He's ready to go. There we go. So
that's more 2 touchdowns today. That's my lock.
Any questions about your fantasy lineup or anything?
No, I got no questions.
All right, let's ask it again.
Amon-Ra St. Brown ready to roll or no?
Yeah. Amon-Ra St. Brown ready to roll or no?
Yeah, you got to get him in there.
Good to go.
Can't go away from him.
He's in. He's good to go.
What's the source on that?
The source? Is there a source?
Schefter, Rappaport, both.
Yeah, Schefter.
Adam Schefter. There you go. So breaking news here in the parking lot, and these rowdy Jets fans, they're breaking hearts. So that's going to do it here for right now. But it's electric. I mean, the Jets fans are pumped up. The Dolphins fans are here too. We'll try to get some more Dolphins fans coming up for you in a little bit. But there you go. You had some props or some questions for you guys, and there's a lot of excitement here. And the dogs are going crazy. Mr. Jason Taylor, big fan here. Any questions about the Dolphins today or your fantasy team or any bets?
No questions, but we're going to blow a big win today. Dolphins going to take over. We're covering that spread easily.
All right, easily covering the spread. What do you guys think?
I think it'll be close. I think it's a close one. Teddy Bridgewater, I don't know if he puts up enough points or not.
Yeah.
Big Jets fan here. Any questions for
Wayne
our host
Corbett
about
jersey?
Your fantasy team or sports betting or just in general about the team? Big Wayne Corbett fan here, obviously.
For sure. Yeah, I've been a Jet fan for as long as I can remember. Going back to probably 78 would have been my first season watching. As far as today goes, hoping for the best. I think they definitely have a shot.
Yeah. Cautiously optimistic, would you say?
I would say, yeah. It's I definitely want them in the game with a chance to steal it. But yeah, I'm liking what I'm seeing this year. Able to come out of the first half.
What'd you think about Zach Wilson leading the team to victory last week?
I thought it was a step in the right direction. I don't think he's there yet. Clearly, it's one game. One thing I definitely got to see out of Zach is he's got to play the rest of the games.
Right.
He's got to stay healthy. Let's start from there.
Yeah.
The offensive line, a couple of years in a row, just can't catch a break there. Hopefully now.
No Mekhi Becton.
I know. Hopefully going forward from this point, if it can solidify itself. And they can keep dialing up the right game plan. And, I'm optimistic it can be a functioning offense. Is it ready to be a high-functioning offense yet?
No.
I don't know about that.
We'll see.
I don't know about that, but you know what? From what we've been through the last 4 or 5 years, the Adam Gase disaster and fighting for every blade of grass, let's start there. Let's start with, an NFL-looking offense week in and week out.
Yeah,
they have it.
I agree with them. The Jets team is starting to come through there, Nick.
Absolutely.
Flacco.
Nick, we appreciate you getting us some a look on the ground here. We got questions pouring in, so we got to get back to those, my man.
All right, we'll see you later.
Nick, we'll talk to you in a bit. Thank you very much.
Talk to you, boss. Thank you, buddy.
I'll tell you, Coop. We did Nick there last couple weeks ago. Giants fans, not really as entertaining as those Jets fans are. Let me tell you. I think I know what crowd I want to go party with.
You sure those were Jets fans, dude? I saw some Chiefs fans, Cowboys fans,
Chiefs fans.
I mean,
that was a different crowd we'd want to hang out
with. They got
the
football game on, the shutter shades. They were drinking nips. They were dogs. They were burgers. I mean, like that looked like a good time for sure. That's the part of the parking lot you need to be in. So if you're out there at the game, go find Nick Durst. We'll probably be checking in with him again later on, at least throughout the day. So if you see, go find Nick Durst, jump in the show that way, or call us on the app, Bettor Sports app right now. We'll throw you right on, ask any questions you want, or just kind of chat with us, man. We love hanging out with you guys. That's what the app's all about. Smash that fun button. But for now, we
have a score in this early
update,
game, Coop. It's 3-0 Packers. Just first score of the game there. Randall Cobb has a 35-yard catch. A.J. Dillon, 2 carries for 12 yards. That's about the offense so far in this Packers-Giants game. Just give it a quick update for everybody that we do have a 9:30 London game already going on.
Absolutely. Now, let's jump over, get into we had a bunch of questions come in before the break there. We don't want to make you wait too long on these questions that already came in. So let's just knock out some questions.
Yeah, go ahead. We'll rapid fire them, Coop. I got to ask you a question. Ken wants to know, non-PPR, Hunt, Zeke, or Mostert today?
I'm starting non-PPR. I'm starting Zeke. He's, the goal line back. Tony Pollard's been banged up a little bit. So I think Zeke's a pretty good start. Although Mostert against this Jets defense, I could be convinced, John. Which way are you thinking on this one?
Yeah, I think I really like Mostert because I don't know. I guess Teddy Bridgewater and Tua are similar, or we consider them sort of similar style quarterbacks, right?
Yeah.
Like we don't expect Tua to drop back and throw a ton, but he had been. I don't think they're going to drop back and throw it a ton with Teddy. So I do kind of like Mostert here. The Cowboys, their matchup today against the Rams is kind of tough, right? They're even 6-point underdogs. So are they going to be in position to be throwing a lot in non-PPR? I mean, running the ball as much with Zeke. So I may lean Mostert here. I will say Kareem Hunt is pretty interesting. I understand it's non-PPR, but he's been seeing double-digit carries in every game this season. He had 2 touchdowns in week 1, and he's still catching 2 to 3 passes a game against now a Chargers defense. They rank 30th in DVOA against the run. I think they've the 3rd most rushing yards. We're expecting a monster day from Nick Chubb today. I still think Kareem Hunt has some fantasy value. And Zeke just hasn't really looked that good. I know that you've talked a lot about this week about Pollard being a little bit banged up, but is the matchup against the Rams the spot for him to kind of have a big day? I wonder about that. I might lean Mostert here. Mostert.
Rams is a tough matchup. Yeah, I would go Mostert. He does also have the upside because he will split with Pollard to a certain degree regardless. So yeah.
So I think Mostert is probably the best of the 3. I like Hunt a lot in DFS this week as a pivot. We have Growing Stuff wants to know, pick a flex, Juju, Jacobs, Allen Robinson, or Brian Robinson today.
Juju, Jacobs, Allen Robinson, or Brian
Juju's a bit
Robinson.
banged up too, by the way. I don't know if you saw that report.
You're definitely starting. If you're starting just one player, it's Josh Jacobs. He played 90% of the snaps last week. He's locked in. He's dialed in. They're not doing the split backfield that people thought they would. I thought they would. They're not doing that. It's just the Josh Jacobs show. So you got to start him.
Yeah, you gotta go Jacobs as well. They even started the last 2 weeks. They threw to him too. 10 catches last 2 weeks for Josh Jacobs.
That's crazy. Yeah.
You
said also Teddy Bridgewater or Ryan Tannehill. You're our QB expert, John.
Yeah, I'm going Teddy Bridgewater here. I think this is just going to be a big Derrick Henry day against Washington. No Treylon Burks for Tannehill. So Nick Westbrook-Akine, if you're in DFS, maybe a value punt play there today. But I don't really like Tannehill in this spot as much. Bradley Roach wants to know Waller or Hawkinson today, Coop. You've mentioned already the Patriots struggles against the tight end. Listen, Devin McCourty got old. He was the shutdown cover guy for tight ends. Duggar and Juwan Williams, obviously, I don't think he's on our team anymore. Like those guys, Duggar is obviously, but those guys who were expected to be the tight end guys haven't really come through this year.
Yeah, and Kyle Duggar, he's working his way back, but he's probably not going to play. Let's see, without Kyle Duggar. That's the most recent update. Hawkins is a decent play. We had 2 questions with Waller. Bradley Roach asked Waller or Hawkinson. Chris Thompson asked Tyler Higbee or Waller. Here's where I'm at with Darren Waller. He hasn't been producing, but his usage behind the scenes, which is at the end of the day usually is what ends up mattering most, is great. He's running 85% of the routes. He has a 18% target share. He plays 85% of his snaps at wide receiver. He never pass blocks, and his average depth of target is 11 yards. So if you're looking at a guy like Tyler Higbee, he's probably safer in that his targets are guaranteed, but he only runs a 4-yard average depth of target. If both these players are to have a game where they both get 8 targets, you can expect Waller to outscore Higbee because Waller's running 11-yard average depth of target routes. Higbee's running these little 4-yard routes. So for me, I lean into the upside play. So in both cases, I would start Darren Waller personally. If you wanted to start TJ Hawkinson because you want that the safe-ish play, then go ahead. But for me, I'm starting Darren Waller. I drafted him to start him.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this is the match. These are matchups that you want Waller in, right? Like, you want
Chiefs.
the spot against Kansas City. We just saw Kansas City hang, 40 points on Tampa Bay's defense. It forced Tom Brady to do nothing but throw that entire game. He went out there, 380 yards, 3 scores. Like, Derek Carr is going to have to throw in this game because of the game flow we're expecting between this match between him and the Chiefs. So you want Waller out there. So yeah, I'm gonna go Waller in both of those spots here. And then we have another question here: Gabe Davis, Tyler Lockett, or Jeff Wilson?
The thing is, like, I like starting the running back because Jeff Wilson. I do, but I mean, how do you go away from Tyler Lockett right now? You know what I mean? He's so good.
Tyler Lockett today on DraftKings $5,600. How do you not
every
play
lineup? Every lineup. 11 targets, 9 targets. Like Tyler Lockett, you have to get him in your lineup right now.
Yeah, and if you think Marshawn Lattimore today is going to be on DK Metcalf, which had been the matchups in previous seasons when they were up against one another, like Lockett's going to have the easier coverage today. He's been a go-to guy for Geno Smith. Like, I'm locking in Tyler Lockett. No pun intended there, I guess.
Tyler Lockett is the example of why these small sample sizes, you have to look at behind the scenes stats, because if Tyler Lockett had 1 touchdown, we would be talking about him totally different. The touchdowns and the early games are so valuable because it just, doubles your score basically in most games.
Right.
Like if he had 1 touchdown, we'd be looking at this and saying, wow, 9 catches for 107, 9 catches for 107, 9 catches for 76, 6 catches for 91. Like This guy's like wide receiver 1 town if he just catches 1 or 2 touchdowns. And then let me tell you, he will.
He will. Oh yeah. Yeah. He's a guy that can break them too. Last week he got a fumble too. It kind of hurt on a punt return. It was kind of hurt him. I don't really love that they use him on punt returns because he is a very valuable piece of that offense, but he is returning punts nonetheless there. So again, if you want your questions answered, you got to get into the chat. You got to download the Better Sports Network app. You got to sign up. You got to click join show. Get in here with Coop and I. Get in the channel. Ask us questions. We're also answering questions over on the YouTube as well.
We got Scampers in the chat. We got JL in the chat. We got Nick Durst popping in. We got Better Boss. Tommy, get in the game. Everybody hanging out with us. Get in the app. That's where the fun's at. YouTube, it's fine. It's nice. But the app, Big Bun's in here saying, yo, good morning, Big Bun. Football day. We got a football game right now going on. Still 3-0 over there, John?
Yeah, still 3-0. Just a bunch of punts going back and forth right now. Offenses are kind of stalling out a little bit. The Giants went 3-and-out on their first possession there. The Packers just gave the ball back to them on a punt. Still, Randall Cobb is your leading receiver in this game, 2 for 38. Romeo Dubs has 1 for -1. Something called Tyler Davis has 1 for -3. So not a lot of fantasy points being scored here. If you played a showdown slate and you threw Randall Cobb in your lineup, and use the Packers kicker, you're probably taking it home at the moment.
Here's the thing. I don't care if it's 3-and-outs all day because guess what? Normally we wouldn't even have football right now. We get to have football. It's a blessing.
Nothing better than football and eggs. So I agree.
Football is better. Even bad football is better than no football, my friends. So enjoy each and every one of these punts because, a couple weeks from now, there's going to be no football right now.
Right. For those of you all just tuning in now here again, we'll give you a quick recap of the injury news that we know about, at least for the moment. Amon-Ra St. Brown is expected to play today before the Lions. Hunter Renfrow is expected to play for the Raiders. Brian Robinson activated and expected to play around 20 snaps for the Washington Commanders here today. Keenan Allen has been ruled out once again for the Chargers. Michael Thomas and Jameis Winston are not going to play for the Saints today. We know Tua has already been ruled out. You'll see Teddy B there for Miami. Dawson Knox has been ruled out for Buffalo. DeAndre Swift, Quintez Cephas, and DJ Chark all out for the Lions today. Josh Reynolds, of course, and Amon-Ra St. Brown, your 2 wide receivers in that one. Kyle Pitts is out for Atlanta today. Cameron Brate out for Tampa Bay. Treylon Burks been ruled out, put on the IR as well for the Titans with that turf toe. Jahan Dotson ruled out today for the Commanders. Brevin Jordan out for the Texans. Both 2 kickers, Jake Elliott and Matt Prater, ruled out today. Rashad Bateman is out for the Ravens. Tyler Kroft and Laviska Shenault also out. Again, the show after us, right? Front Yard Fantasy Crew, they'll have the complete inactives for everybody. So you got to stay with the station all day today. Keep you up to date and in-game as well with the Better Zone guys there. Corey Adam and Simon, or you have Simon, Joey, and JL from 11 to 1. Corey Adam and Scott from 1 to 5 today. So no reason to leave the station here, Coop.
Nah, I'm hanging out, man. I might even pop in, depending on how the wedding goes. Last week I popped in for the around 6 o'clock for the show that they do there. It's Pilar, and it was a blast hanging out with those guys. Yeah. Like I enjoy it, so I'm gonna be popping in throughout the day.
Let me say this: the best part about the Better Sports Network is you have the app, right? Yeah. So you can be at the wedding, you can be sitting down, the ceremony's going on. You got the app open on your phone. You're hitting that like button. You're in there chatting it up with everybody. So maybe you do a live on the scene wedding call-in, and let people know
exactly.
What's going on at Granite Links today.
And they ask me, they say, do you like Devontae Parker today? And I say I do. And then there's a little confusion because it's like the bride saying I do, and I'm saying it's just one of those wedding things that it happens when you jump in. But if you want to do me a favor, because we're on here, we're doing our best to help you with your fantasy leagues. You ask the questions, we'll answer them. We got a couple in here we're going to get to right after this. But if you want to thank us for helping you, you can help us out. Go into the Better Sports app. Give the app 5 stars. It means the world to us. We're getting this thing started ground up. You're here at the very beginning. I mean, this network just started. We're literally 1 month in. So you guys are in here ground floor. We see your names. Like, as this thing grows, as this thing gets bigger, we're not going to forget Scampers. We're not going to forget Big Buns. So if you could go in there, help us out with a review, those early reviews, we really appreciate it. And just know that, we're watching you guys. We appreciate you guys. So thank you very much. And let's get back to it, John.
Yeah, no, for sure. You mentioned some weather updates earlier today. When it comes to wind, there are a couple games on the slate today that has some expected high wind totals. Buffalo and the Pittsburgh Steelers game, as you mentioned already, we're seeing wind ranges of upwards of 17 miles an hour. So we'll see. We've talked a lot about how much wind tends to impact some of these games or not. We're seeing sustained winds of around 15 miles an hour for that game. So, we were in on Devin Singletary today. We're maybe you downgrade Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs a little bit. If you're in seasonal, you're playing these guys anyways, right? Like there's no pivot off of Josh Allen for you. There's no pivot off of Stephon Diggs for you. Those guys you have to lock in. But like for Gabriel Davis, Coop, with the weather impact of him today, is he a borderline start for you? Like most weeks we're all systems go, it feels like, but Gabe Davis, really hasn't brought the value that many people drafted him for outside of really that first week or so. And now we're dealing with another win game here where, is there risk playing Gabe Davis today?
Yeah, I mean, with his profile specifically, because he's the high A-dot downfield guy, he's the one that's most impacted by this. The way I treat it, the win like this, if we're over 20 miles an hour, for sure, then I would then it really matters. For me, I just use it as a tiebreaker. So if you had two guys that you consider to be very similar, like say, Gabe Davis or Tyler Lockett, like I'm going with the guy that's not playing in 15 to 20 mile an hour winds, just because, at that pace, it's a tiebreaker. If it was like 20 with gusts of 30, that, and I did read an article that said they expect there to be some gusts of 30, but like,
right,
unless it's torrential and without the rain, it's not necessarily as bad either. So for me, I'm just using it as a tiebreaker. That's where I'm at with it.
Other games that could have some high winds today in Cleveland with the Chargers game, we're seeing winds upwards of 14 miles an hour. Patriots, Detroit, winds over 10. Of course, the Jets game also winds over 10. So those aren't nearly as bad. We really want the gusts, like you said, 15, 20 plus, which we could see today in that Buffalo game. Is what we're trying to avoid. And like you said, if you have questions on Gabriel Davis today, we've answered a few already. If you have any questions pertaining to your start-sit lineups today, get them in the chat. Get us to them on YouTube. Get them in the Better Sports chat as well. And Coop and I are going to be here to answer those questions for you. When Coop and I get back, though, we're going to continue breaking down these games for today. We're going to have to go through and answer them game by game. As you have any of those questions, bring them into us. For now, this is Coop and I on the Game Day Playbook presented by Fantasy Time on the Better Sports Network. We'll be right back.
Corey, Nando, and friends. Presented by Mayo Media on Bettor Sports Network.
I'm convinced that Babe Ruth is a fictional character. Babe Ruth is not real. No, it's not. Babe Ruth is not real. We've been hoodwinked. We've been bamboozled. We've been led astray. We've been run amok.
Keep going.
Babe Ruth. I don't know the rest. Babe Ruth is a fictional character. I'm dead serious. Babe Ruth is a fictional character. Y'all are never going to get me to believe that Babe Ruth is real. Babe Ruth is like a baseball Santa Claus. I'm not buying it. After I saw those highlights last night of Babe Ruth, I'm like, there's no way you can tell me that Babe Ruth is a real person. Who do you know? There is nobody under the sound of my voice that has ever seen Babe Ruth play. I asked my pop, you ever seen Babe Ruth play? He's like, no. Nobody's ever seen Babe Ruth play.
I mean, come on.
I'm telling you, Babe Ruth is a fictional character. Even Babe Ruth baseball cards, it looked like it's drawn. Like, Babe Ruth is not real. Y'all trying to pull a fast one. Listen, I don't know who made this up. Maybe it was Phil Rizzuto. Maybe it's the Lenny Melnick. But Babe Ruth is not a real person. There's no way. Everything about Babe Ruth is sketchy. If you didn't go to the games, how do you know that it really happened? Or I listened on the radio. You listen to Ovaltine on the radio. That old school radio was all fiction. Everything on old school radio was fake. But you think Babe Ruth is real.
Look, he lived until 1948. So if you find someone who's like 85 years old, they might have remembered him when he was little, when they were a little teenager.
Babe Ruth was made up by baseball purists. I am certain.
You do that thing where you pause the Babe Ruth video and you zoom in and you zoom in and you zoom in. You see like some artist's autograph like right here.
Yeah,
like digital art right here. Yeah.
Somebody needs to investigate this and see if Babe Ruth is a real person. I'm pretty sure Babe Ruth is a fictional character created to make people think that like there was this great jolly old baseball player that drank beers and ate hot dogs and hit 60 home runs. Like the home run record before Babe Ruth was like 14. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and
but
now
he figured it out. Like who figured out the dunk, right? Like he's just like, oh,
that's like Dr. J or something like. Then Dr. J, probably was before Dr. J, but Dr. J made the dunk famous. Babe Ruth made the home run famous, or maybe that was a way to get people to like. We're gonna make baseball America's pastime, but in order to do so, we need somebody who we can make the face of the sport. And they didn't have no face of the sport. So they're like, okay, let's make him a fictional guy that played for the Red Sox and was traded to the Yankees for like tickets to tickets to cats. You know what I'm saying? Like the Red Sox get a Yankees.
You tried to say leave.
Is there any footage of Babe Ruth in the Red Sox uniform? None. I'm telling you, Babe Ruth is a fictional character.
Welcome back in, everybody. The Game Day Playbook here presented by Fantasy Alarm on the Bettor Sports Network. Coop, I said it before break. It's time to get into some of these game previews. We have a lot to talk about. As we hit these games, we're going to answer your questions as they become applicable to it all. Coop, first game on the docket here, Chargers, Cleveland Browns. Cleveland is getting 2.5 points, 47.5 game total here. We mentioned already Keenan Allen is out. Josh Palmer is questionable, but he did practice on Friday. For me, this was just a big game where I was all in on Nick Chubb right away. I think in DFS you can even have some alt lineups there with Kareem Hunt as well. That's really the exposure I want for the Brown side. Chargers side of things, Mike Williams. I think Gerald Everett as well. He's in my contrarian corner DFS video, and then Austin Eckler coming off a 3-touchdown game last week. Coop, I think you're muted.
Whoopsies there. We had a question in the chat. Marion Kidd said thoughts on Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler is always a guy you start every single week. Like, I don't know, like you were drafting him in PPR formats because of who he is. He never has had 1,000-yard rushing. So he's still good in standard. You start him in every format, but in PPR, even before this past week, he was getting 10 targets. Yeah. What more can you really ask for?
No, Keenan Allen has really helped, I think, the Austin Eckler receiving game here. So I'm with you. You're never not starting Austin Eckler for sure. In DFS, I think he's going to go rather overlooked today. So again, if you played Austin Eckler last week and he was 3%, 4% rostered, he scores you 3 touchdowns. Like, that's what you need to win those GPP tournaments. So, we're not looking at Austin Eckler to be a highly rostered play today. He has that multi-touchdown upside. He has that 7-catch upside. Like, that's what you need in PPR formats that could put you over the top. So I like it. But again, Nick Chubb, I was very surprised. Again, I do the Contrarian Corner DFS video over at Fantasy Alarm. I thought for sure going into today that Nick Chubb was going to be one of the highest rostered running backs on the slate, but he's very expensive. And it seems like people don't want to spend up at running back today. They want to spend down in the mid-tier, Coop. So this is a smash spot. If our draft percentage forecaster is correct, which you can get over at Fantasy Alarm as part of the all-pro package that we have, Nick Chubb was a guy that was under 5% expected over on DraftKings today. So, that's what I'm about there if I'm building those lineups.
Absolutely. And I mean, like, look at some of the other positions. There's a lot of wide receivers that are hurt, which opens up the door to cheaper wide receivers. All the high-end tight ends aren't even on the main slate. Like, Kelsey is playing against Waller on Monday night, so that game's out. Mark Andrews is playing tonight, so you don't really even have to worry about paying up at tight end. It's not even an option. So There's a lot of other places that are easier to spend down on. I'm down on spending up on running back.
Yep, I agree with you. The reason that people aren't spending up on that game there, Coop, is because in Detroit, New England, and Better Boss in the chat there. So which unit is horrible? The Lions defense or the Patriots offense? Well, the Lions are one of the worst run defenses in the NFL this year. I wrote about that as well. I do the Prize Picks Power Play video. I took Damian Harris over 60.5 rushing yards today in that matchup against the run this year. They were one of the worst teams in football. They're 31st in DVOA. They allow a league high 5.6 yards per carry. They allowed the most rushing touchdowns and the third most rushing yards. So Patriots passing offense, maybe a little questionable. Bailey Zappi, though they did activate Tyquan Thornton today, Coop. Second round pick from the Patriots activated today, could be active in this game. We know Bailey Zappi just in college, he did nothing but throw. But again, this running game, Ramondre Stevenson, Damian Harris, a lot of people are going there today in DFS. It's a great spot for them against Detroit.
Yeah, absolutely. And what kind of stinks here is that the Patriots, because of the way that they play, you just described it with the good defense and the kind of ground and pound offense, they've been kind of a black hole for fantasy football, whereas the Lions are on the complete opposite end of the spectrum. Good offense, bad defense is amazing for fantasy football. We want to see these games where, the score is 48-45 like it was last week. So it is an interesting matchup. And I think that it's a total yin and yang matchup. Two opposite teams hitting each other. It's not easy to predict this one.
Here's what the weird thing is, Coop, is that this game total continues to move up. It's up to 45.5 now. So people are looking at this matchup between, to answer that question there, Matt, Better Boss in chat, I think that the Lions defense is so bad that people are still betting the over on this total because they don't think they're stopping anybody. And with Ramondre Stevenson and Damian Harris able to run the football the way they do, Ramondre Stevenson showing the ability to catch the football late as well. And I think some people, maybe more the public, and I know some of the team reporters are a bit more skeptical on it. I think the public, at least, is a little bit more bullish on Bailey Zappi as a quarterback because he put up all of those gaudy passing numbers at the FBS level that they think he can come in there, put him in shotgun, make some plays happen in the offense. He threw that touchdown to Devontae Parker last week. The Patriots put up some points on Green Bay. Now they're coming up against his Lions defense. I just don't think that the public is looking at this game like Detroit can't stop me at quarterback. So how are they going to stop a professional football team? So people are betting the over on this game. So
yeah, for sure. And just everybody in the chat, at this part, we're going to hit all these games one at a time. And as your questions become applicable, we're going to hit them. For instance, LOL on the YouTube channel asked, start Amon-Ra St. Brown or Ramondre Stevenson, both in this game. It's a full PPR, and he's using their flex spot for it. So, John, which way are you leaning on that one?
I mean, I'm going to start Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think that's just the volume I think we're going to see out of him today. I'm trying to put my fandom obviously aside and Belichick's history against Goff and Belichick's history defensively. And again, outside of Lamar Jackson, their defense has played very well this season, right? Like, yes, they ended up losing in overtime to Aaron Rodgers, but Aaron Rodgers didn't have like his greatest game last week. Lamar Jackson is a different animal when it comes to trying to defend him. And the fact that he ran for over 100 yards, he threw to Mark Andrews, but you take that game out of the equation. You look at the Patriots defense outside of that game, and they've done really well defensively against teams. And Goff is a guy that I feel like the Patriots have an ability to defend. So we'll see how that matchup plays up. I still think you have to go with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Coop, we have a touchdown in this Packers game. Allen Lazard. Kev Tompkins. Another touchdown for Allen Lazard. Hey, but good for him because he put him on the cover of his Targets article this week. So
smart. He knew.
Allen Lazard out there scoring touchdowns this week again. Another touchdown. More offense. Finally something to come through here. Aaron Rodgers, 6 for 60 and a score. Passing, 6 catches. 60 yards on touchdown. You passing the ball. Randall Cobb still 2 for 38 leading. Romeo Doubs now 2 for 21. Lazard, 1 catch on 1 target, but it is a 4-yard score there. Nothing going on for the Giants. They're just Barkley's got 4 for 13. Darius Slayton's got 1 catch for 26 yards. That's all they got going on there. So they are over midfield though now. We just had an 11-yard catch to Bellinger. So we'll see if the Giants can put some points on the board. Again, we're going to continue to follow along this London game between the Packers and the Giants here. Still in the first quarter, about a minute left to go in the first quarter of that game. Coop, any other thoughts here on this New England-Detroit game?
Yeah, I mean, this is the last with Jonnu Smith out. This is Hunter Henry's worth a DFS stab. This is probably the last opportunity for him to prove that he's worth anything in fantasy football. So I'm interested to see what Hunter Henry does, but yeah, it's not looking good for him this year. He's just not involved really. So, but interested to see what happens there. This is the matchup for him. So.
Next game here, Atlanta versus Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay up to a 10-point favorite now, a 46.5 game total on this one. We mentioned already the big news is Kyle Pitts being ruled out for Atlanta. Cordarrelle Patterson also out, placed on IR for them. Expecting likely Tyler Algier to be the lead back today. Caleb Huntley did get 20% of the snaps last week, even found the end zone for them, so maybe he works his way into that rotation. For Tampa Bay, it's not looking like Julio Jones or Russell Gage are going to be playing today. I saw a tweet earlier this morning that they actually called up a couple of players from their activated to their practice squad. So we'll see if there's an official activation news on those two guys. Obviously, you'll get the official inactives with the Front Yard Fantasy crew following Coop and I today at 11 o'clock. But assuming Brate, Jones, and Gage may be out for today, Mike Evans and Russell Gage and Chris Godwin are back for this team. People are worried. This is what my fantasy advice has been this week. People are worried about a 10-point spread here against Atlanta. They're worried that Atlanta's going to go up big and Tom Brady's not going to throw and they're going to go and use Leonard Fournette. People have been saying this about Tom Brady forever, especially since he got to Tampa Bay. He doesn't care what the spread is. He doesn't care what the game spread. Tom Brady is there to throw the football. And Tom Brady has done that successfully in Tampa Bay, running up scores. Tom Brady's over-under is 286 passing yards today in Vegas. Vegas thinks he's going to throw for almost 300 yards. He's probably going to throw for 2 or 3 scores here. $6,000 on DraftKings today, Coop. That's the lowest I think I've ever seen Tom Brady. He's home. He's a big favorite. He's got his 2 top weapons here. I think Tom Brady is going to throw all over this team.
Yeah, I mean, he's been missing weapons in like each of these games, and he's still throwing 270, 385 last couple of games. Now he's got Evans, Godwin, all the weapons, Cameron Brate, whatever. And speaking of that situation, Cade Otton, after Cameron Brate left with concussion, played a ton of snaps, ran a bunch of routes, 4 targets, 3 receptions. He is essentially the bare minimum price on most of the sites. So Cade Otton is a guy that I'm definitely throwing.
I got him in the Raz Bowl, Coop.
Yeah. Oh,
I actually forgot that I was in the Raz Bowl. I do that sometimes. You know us, Coop. We get in so many leagues, we kind of forget. I'm 3rd in my division, 30th overall. So that Raz Bowl best ball team that I drafted, looking pretty strong there. And then I noticed I had Cade Otton there. So let's hope that rookie tight end continues to produce there. Anybody
we had a question. We had a question. Giovanni R. Castro asked, PPR start Cade Otton or Hayden Hurst. Honestly, I I have Cade Otton ranked ahead of Hayden Hurst. Hayden Hurst has been banged up. He's not even playing a full snap share. In fact, the game before last, Mitchell Wilcox played more snaps. This past game, it was very close. Hurst runs more routes than Wilcox, but if Hurst is only going to run 50, 60% of the routes, then he's just and be the fifth target on the team because Joe Mixon's getting a ton of targets this year. Obviously, Boyd, Chase, and Higgins are going to be ahead of him. Hurst is just not in an interesting upside spot. Cade Otton,
your first hope is they get into a goal line situation, they play action it, and then like he runs out in the flat, right? Like
not enough for me.
That's your Hurst hope there. So yeah, I'm fine going Cade Otton. That's fine. Anybody on Atlanta that you want to play today? I mean, Drake London. Is he a must start for you right now? Is Drake London in this game?
Think about that. So I'm this way. Wherever you were starting London before, you continue to start him now. But the top target on the team usually isn't that impacted by the second target being hurt. It's usually the second and third guys that are impacted by injuries, or the fourth guys. So I don't know if this even helps Drake London. Makes things easier for London. Might make things harder for him. But honestly, I'm still getting him in there in this matchup because they're going to have to throw. You can't just sit back against the Buccaneers and not throw. So London's going to get force-fed the ball. How efficient he'll be, we'll have to see.
And again, for those in the chat right now, we're going to go ahead and get your questions as we hit them, as we hit the game there, and we'll cover that shortly. So stick with us here. We're going game by game, and we'll make sure to hit up your questions when we get to them. Next game on the docket here, Coop, is one that I talked a lot about for DFS today. Seattle versus New Orleans. New Orleans is a 5.5-point home favorite. Game total there, 45.5. On that keeps on rising. Michael Thomas is out. Jameis Winston unlikely to play. I think they already named Andy Dalton the starter anyways. Alvin Kamara said he's going to be good to go here. I love this game for DFS purposes. For seasonal, this is one of those games where we kind of know where the ball is going to go, right? It's going to go to Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf. Rashard Penny had a big week last week. For the Saints, Chris Olave, Alvin Kamara for sure. What's your tight end breakdown for this game with the Saints? And who are you trusting as a number 2 receiver in New Orleans?
Yeah, I mean, now with the Saints, I'm not starting Taysom Hill anywhere because the dude people ask me to rank him amongst the tight ends. The guy has 2 receiving yards. He has 1 target. He hasn't gotten a target since week 1. Like, he's basically just a coin flip on whether he scores a rushing touchdown or not. So, maybe in standard leagues or best ball, but there's just too many guys that actually get targets. And most of my leagues are PPR or at least half PPR. And it's just more valuable to start a guy that's going to catch a couple passes than a guy who literally doesn't. You know what I mean? Like this guy has run 11 routes on the season. If he's going to catch a pass, it'll be because he tried to throw it and it got batted back to him. Like that's where he's at. He's the backup gadget quarterback. So I'm not starting him. I'm not starting Adam Trautman. If anyone, I'm starting Juwan Johnson. Right. On the other side of the ball, Will Disley would be more interesting if he wasn't still splitting with Noah Fant. The guy only has 12 targets. Again, this is the impact of touchdowns early on. If Will Disley had 1 touchdown, and no one would be talking about this guy at all because he has only 12 passes.
He's giving you like 3 for 30 every game too with the score though?
But with the score. Like that's what I'm saying. Is that
it's putting him over the top, but as bad as the tight end position has been this year, 6 PPR points for a tight end may actually still have him as like a top 12.
Yeah, I mean, well, dude, 1 game he had 0 yards. So it's not like he's doing that every game, right? He's basically getting 3 targets and 30 yards. There's more people I could start than Uncle Will. But, if you have to, some people are desperate. Some people lost. I've had people that went out, had Pitts. When they saw he was hurt, they added Logan Thomas. Now Logan Thomas, we're waiting on updates on him, but he's questionable. Like some people, they got no choice but to start Will Disley, but that's the kind of player, that's the kind of starter it is. Like if you have any sort of choice, there's probably better options. Get your questions in there now, and I'll tell you. Or you can just go to my page if you want the answer now at Coop A Fiasco on Twitter. I have my full rankings up there. I posted them yesterday.
Yep, I agree with you there. Again, we'll continue to get questions as they come through for us here, in the chat. Next game here we have Houston versus Jacksonville. Jacksonville minus given 7, 43.5 game total here. Brevin Jordan out. Zay Jones, we're waiting on his status for today. I know Howard Bender's a big fan of Jacksonville for today. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, I think Jackson's going to steamroll. Honestly, in this one, it's a good matchup for these guys. I'm still rolling out Evan Ingram where I have him. You don't have to in your leagues, but I honestly think what we saw the first 2 games from him he's more like what we're going to see. And then he had 2 games where he faced Derwin James, who's a very tough matchup for tight ends. He was the guy that suplexed Travis Kelce a couple weeks ago. And then last week he played against the Eagles defense, arguably the best defense in the league, and it was a hurricane, and the quarterback fumbled 4 times, and Christian Kirk got 5 targets, and before he even caught a single one, he went like over 5 on his first targets. Like, nobody could do anything in that game. So I think this is a bounce back game. But again, this is the last hurrah for a guy like Evan Ingram too. Like, if he doesn't do anything here, you can't trust him moving forward. Right. So I'm stashing him or starting him in a lot of places, and this is the last call for him. On the Houston side, you're starting Dameon Pierce, you're starting Brandon Cooks where you have to, and beyond that, can't really trust anybody. Nico Collins is just kind of the guy that's kind of been right there. You know what I mean?
I've been using Nico Collins a little bit as like a spend down spot, but you've sent some tweets out in regards to OJ Howard. So do you have any OJ Howard interest on the slate?
OJ Howard's a guy that I'm stashing. I mean, you could start him in DFS. I mean, that again.
Yeah, DBP is $2,600. So
exactly the barrier to entry on that is a lot lower. But keep in mind, this is what these teams do. These bad teams do, and it's a smart thing to do. This is what the Dolphins did in 2019. Is that like they were running live tryouts? They would have a game where Isaiah Ford plays the entire game, and you're like, oh, Isaiah Ford's a thing, and then they would cut him the following week, and then Mac Hollins would play the entire game, and then they would put Mac Hollins on the bench, and then Preston Williams would play the entire game. Like sometimes these teams do that where they give these guys tryouts. So Farrell Brown would play the entire game, and then they would just say, hey, you know what? You're not going to be part of the future of this team. Cut him. Last week, OJ Howard played the entire game, 43 of 57 snaps, 28 routes run. But you don't know. Like, this game, it could be Mason Schreck, or it could be Jordan Akins. You don't even know. So it's worth a risk in DFS, but not in your real league. There's too many better options in real redraft leagues than OJ Howard.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Coop, we have Deontay Johnson or Brandon Cooks for half PPR.
Deontay Johnson. Yeah, that's a Elena start in YouTube. Yeah, like just for everybody in the YouTube, we're taking your questions and we're putting them with the applicable games. So just hang tight till we get to those games, and then we'll hit your questions. So Elena Start asked us a little earlier, Deontay Johnson or Brandon Cooks, half PPR. Deontay Johnson's got that bad weather game, but I think I still trust Deontay Johnson over Cooks.
Yeah, because he's not going to throw deep, right? So they're just going to kind of throw short to him. A game we already hit on, Devontae Parker or Hawkinson today? Probably Hawkinson, right?
Hawkinson, yeah. Tough to trust Parker.
Yeah, tough. I agree with you. Tough to trust Parker right now as well. A game we're getting to right now, Garrett Wilson or Gabe Davis in a full PPR.
Garrett Wilson or Gabe Davis? I think I still have to go Gabe Davis, even with the wind.
I kind of like Garrett Wilson. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah. I mean, Garrett Wilson did, as we talked about when Nick Durst came on, he did step up his snap share, and Zach Wilson seems to like him. Yeah.
Zach Wilson's biggest yardage total today is 255.5. So
this is probably a good example of where it's close enough that the wind should be the tiebreaker. And because of how windy it's going to be with that Bills game. And the Bills might just run it easily and just make it a short game for the Steelers. So, yeah, go with Garrett Wilson. Have some fun.
Tyler Gardner wants to know Montgomery, Herbert, or Damian Harris in a full PPR. Well, Montgomery's going to play today, so it's basically David Montgomery against Minnesota or Damian Harris versus the Lions. I'm going Damian Harris.
Damian Harris versus the Lions. Yeah, I knew we were going to get these questions that had both Montgomery and Herbert in them. Anybody that's listening that has one of those questions, you can just take Herbert out. We're never going to tell you to start Khalil Herbert over David Montgomery, because when David Montgomery's playing, he's the starter. They've already shown us that. So you got to go that way.
Tyreek Hill in cash games. Yep, lock and load. You can use him in there. He's going to be active. I'm fine with that. Another game we just touched upon, Ben Mano wants to know Chris Godwin and Amon-Ra St. Brown in full PPR. This one I think is a little bit closer.
Yeah. So John, I'm just got to ask you, dude, that fan earlier that came on that we had on the stream that was drinking straight vodka at 9:45 in the morning. You don't believe him that Sauce Gardner is going to shut down Tyreek Hill?
No, I don't think so. You
don't trust that guy's opinion?
Sauce Gardner has been very good, so I'm not going to argue with that. Tyreek Hill's speed is just a lot to deal with, and he doesn't always, at least in this offense, it's not straight speed. It's horizontal speed, right? Like he's running and then he's running across the field, right? And it's hard to track a guy running across the field like that with Bridgewater the way he throws. So I'm still going to go Tyreek and cash games. That's fine.
The question was Chris Godwin or Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'm starting Chris Godwin. He played 53 of 64 snaps. He ran 49 of 57 routes. He's back. He's fully back.
Yeah,
Chris Godwin.
I got very worried when they threw him out there on like a goal line set. He got crunched and they had to take him off the field, but he came back out there. So I worry a bit that he could be made of glass a little bit more now lately, but I'm rolling Godwin out there. And then again, last question here, because the guys we've talked about, Gabe Davis, Jalen Waddle, Chris Olave, Drake London needs 2 in a 10-man standard league.
10-man standard. Gabe Davis, Jalen Waddle. Okay, so I'm gonna have Jalen Waddle in there, and I think I would go Chris Olave.
Yep.
That's where I'm going.
Love it. We're in lockstep on that one. Corey Davis or Deontay Johnson in the flex.
Corey Davis or Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson. Corey Davis kind of became the third fiddle with Zach Wilson came back, and they just decided like it's Elijah Moore and Garrett Wilson. Corey Davis kind of took a little step back in terms of usage, so you got to go that way.
Yep, I agree with you there. Next game, Pittsburgh, Buffalo. We've talked about it. Wins the story here. 14 total, 45.5 spread. I don't think Pittsburgh's going to get much of anything going in this game. I like the Buffalo defense. We've talked about it in certain spots. You could play Deontay Johnson if you want. But Buffalo, to me, is going to roll here. I like Devin Singletary. That's obviously in seasonal. If you have Diggs and you have Allen, you have to play them. I like Singletary and DFS in seasonal this week. And again, I think Gabe Davis, if you have a better option today, you should play him.
Yeah, I think so. Again, any of these Bills, Steelers guys, if you think it's close in your mind, go with the other guy because it not only could be a game where the Steelers just go to sleep and they just run it a ton, but it's windy. So not a super good situation. And even then with the wind, you think, oh, maybe they'll throw it short to like Patrick Freiermuth. Well, Freiermuth is facing Matt Milano, who's one of the best at covering tight ends. He just held Mark Andrews to 2 catches last week, so be careful there. And Ken, we actually answered your question. You might have stepped away for a minute, Ken. We answered that question, the one on
Zeke or Mostert.
Zeke Hunt or Mostert, and we said that we were going with Raheem Mostert against the Jets. Yep. Good matchup.
That is where we're going, and that's the game we're going to talk about right now. Miami versus the Jets here. Jets are getting 3 at home. 45.5 game total in this one, Coop. Again, I like what I've seen out of the Jets. Miami's pass defense this year, they not really that strong. They allowed 400 yards to Josh Allen. They allowed 300 and whatever it was to Lamar Jackson. You know, I think that we could see a good game here out of the Jets. I'm bullish on them.
Yeah, I think that if it was, if everyone was healthy on the Dolphins, it might not be that close a game. But I think because, Tua is out, a lot of these guys listed as questionable. Like besides the quarterback, probably 4 of the most important players on the Dolphins are dealing with injuries. Tyreek Hill with the quad, Jalen Waddle with the groin, Terron Armstead's got a bit of a toe injury, Xavier Howard with a bit of a groin injury. I mean, that's kind of a who's who of who's awesome on this team. So, and then on the flip side, the Jets, they already cleared everybody. I don't think they have anybody even listed as questionable as far as I know. Like Breece Hall has been cleared to play. Dwayne Brown's been cleared to play. So you're getting a full strength Jets team against a Dolphins team that's a little nicked up. Could make for a more interesting game than it normally would be.
I agree with you. Again, I was bullish on the Jets after their draft this last offseason. I thought it looked really well. Al in chat wants to know a Bridgewater DFS stack. Listen, I don't know if Teddy Bridgewater ever has the upside for a DFS play, but maybe. I know, Al, you like to throw some darts in there. So if you're making a couple of lineups, sure, why not? Go ahead, throw a Bridgewater. Here's the thing with Teddy B, right? It's the same thing with Tua. You don't really need Teddy Bridgewater to do the damage. You need him to throw 5 yards to Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, and then they go 60 yards.
And
he gets the yardage. So right, I do think Teddy's capable of doing that. He supported 2,000-yard receivers in Carolina with DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson a couple years ago. So you can go. Listen, I think spending down a QB today is going to be a pretty interesting option for many. Geno Smith against the Saints coming off of his game. Andy Dalton is super cheap, going up against Seattle. Teddy Bridgewater against the Jets again, I think is interesting because a lot of these teams, they have playmaking wide receivers, and that's what you want for your quarterback. As a good wide receiver is a quarterback's best friend there.
And the one thing you didn't factor in, John, this is the year of the comeback quarterback, the reclamation project quarterback, NFC Player of the Week, Geno Smith, Jared Goff hanging 45 points in these games. I mean, got to factor that in, dude. Quarterback's coming back, baby. Next up, Teddy Bridgewater and Marcus Mariota. Let's go.
Yeah, that's basically where we're going for sure there. Tennessee, Washington here. Big news is Brian Robinson. And I honestly expected we would get a lot more Brian Robinson questions. Maybe the Front Yard Fantasy crew will end up getting them once more start-sit inactive rosters come out here today. But Brian Robinson active, expected to play around 20 snaps today. Jahan Dotson's out. Logan Thomas is questionable for the Commanders. Titan side Treylon Burks is out for them. I really like Washington today as well. A lot of people, I think, are down on Carson Wentz because of the last 2 weeks. But the last 2 weeks, as we've talked about, we had them going up against really strong defenses in Philadelphia and against the Philadelphia and Dallas. And this is now, a much easier matchup for them going up against Tennessee, a Tennessee defense that has really struggled against the pass this season. Fourth most passing yards allowed, the most passing touchdowns allowed this season. So for me, I think this is a really good spot for the Washington passing offense here, Coop.
Yeah, it's pretty solid, man. And Kurt, if I wish Logan Thomas is fully healthy, we'll keep an eye on his status. But I wish he was fully healthy because this is like the perfect spot for him with Jahan Dotson out. He's been ramping up his routes run per drop back. It was 50, coming back from the ACL. First game 50, then it was hovered around 60 for a couple games. Finally got back up to 70. Historically, we've seen this guy literally run 100% of the routes. First 3 games last season, he ran every route. So keep an eye on him. If he's healthy, I'm getting him in there. And then Bettor Boss pointing out, we do have a game going on right now. The all-time tight end team center. I made an all tight end team. I picked Mercedes Lewis as the center, and he just scored a touchdown for the Green Bay Packers. So
like I said, he's probably one of those like rollout plays. Is a 2-yard touchdown catch. Again, not much offense really happening here. Aaron Rodgers does have 113 yards and 2 scores. Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon just 6 for 24 and 4 for 21 rushing. Randall Cobb is your leading receiver, 3 for 47 on 5 targets. Romeo Doubs, 2 for 21. Josiah DeGuara, 2 for 19. Aaron Jones, 2 for 17. Alan Lazard, 2 for 9 and a touchdown. So again, not your typical producers there for fantasy for the Packers. Giants side of things, pretty rough still. Daniel Jones just 4 completions for 45 yards. Saquon Barkley, 5 for 14 rushing. Darius Slayton, 1 for 26. Marcus Johnson, 1 for 12. Daniel Bellinger, 1 for 11. Saquon Barkley, 1 for -4. So
on 4 targets.
Not much going on there for the Giants. 7 minutes ago, still in the second quarter. So plenty of time to turn it around, Coop. And let's turn it around back to Nick Durst. He's still in the parking lot out there for this Miami Dolphins New York Jets game. We had him out there. A pretty interesting set of interviews earlier. He's still in the parking lot trying to find everybody here, giving us some fantasy questions. So we'll be joined by Nick Durst right now. Hey, Nick, man, how we doing?
I'm doing well, guys. I have a really exciting guest for us. I think I found the ultimate JETS Jets fan. It's really a sight to be seen. Look at this guy here.
Yeah.
Show us your jersey in the back. It's Pepe legit, and we're gonna show off the pants. Oh, it's a kill.
That's strong.
It's a
kill,
dude.
dude.
The Jets tattoo. So this guy is a huge fan. So, sir, where are you from?
I'm from Scotland.
All the way from. So tell us, you tell me before what it says on your birth certificate.
Yeah, my name is Peter.
And your Jets name is?
Pepe Legit.
Pepe Legit. So Pepe Legit guy.
What a legend, dude.
Got a great What's your question?
Yeah. So what do you think of Zach Wilson's progress?
So he was asking about Zach Wilson. He wants to know if there's any fantasy value for Zach Wilson going forward this season.
Tell him absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, with those weapons, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, Corey Davis, Elijah Moore, even Michael Carter can catch. You got Tyler Conklin looking good. all the weapons are in place. It's all on him now, and I think he's got the swag. I think he can do it. So let him know.
I'm a big fan of Zach Wilson. I love the supporting cast they're building around him. That offensive line is getting healthier. I think it's all systems go for the Jets. As a Patriots fan, it pains me to say that I think the Jets are honestly on the right trajectory here in their rebuild.
So they're saying lots of, and the Jets are on the right track in the rebuild, but it pains them because they're Patriots fans.
Oh, you never told me that.
Can I say Patriots?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not happy. The Jets not happy. Thank you. I do agree. Probably the best Wilson quarterback in the league right now. But we'll show you what we usually do. We got some grilling action going on here. Look at that.
There you go.
Wow.
I think we lost Nick there. Why don't we see if we can maybe put him back, and we'll get him back here if we can reconnect. Coop, big play finally in this game. Saquon Barkley, 40-yard run, helping out those fantasy managers who after a poor showing up to 6 for 54 now, and the Giants moving down the field, 6:20 to go still in this game here. Let's get back to some of these game previews. Let's get back to some of the questions that we're getting in chats. I know games we've touched upon already. Evan Gettleman wants to know in a half PPR, Travis Etienne or Juju Smith-Schuster. We talked about Jacksonville already. We like James Robinson. I think this could be a spot where Etienne maybe finally gets a little bit of value as well. We don't think highly of this Houston team.
Yeah, I'm telling you right now that now is the time to go out and get Travis Etienne or Breece Hall, because we just saw for both of them, they both played more snaps than the other guy in the backfield. Etienne was only 24 to 22, so not as big a jump as Breece Hall. Breece Hall basically played 2/3 of the snaps to 1/3 for Michael Carter. But, when you start seeing that flip and you got these guys that are, that are high. I mean, he's a first-round pick. James Robinson, as good as he's been, he's an undrafted free agent. They've made a big investment, this new group has in Travis Etienne. So I think we're going to see him get going. And you have to remember, this guy played with Trevor Lawrence in college. These guys know each other. They're friends. It's that's an advantage in this game. Like if you have that trust and to have that confidence. So Travis Etienne is in a great spot, especially, we know what he does. He's a guy that can catch the ball in the backfield. We just watched a very similar player in terms of skill set and profile, and Austin Eckler carved this team up.
Yeah.
So I think Etienne is a great play against
them. Yeah, and the value on him in DFS keeps going up because his price keeps dropping. So if you're out there to take some dart throws, especially in DraftKings where you get that full PPR, like one of these weeks, Travis Etienne will hit, right? I don't think he's a consistent week-to-week guy, but you want to go ahead and put him out there in certain situations and where he can be maybe his best version of himself. And I think Texans could be a matchup where he does it. Back to Tennessee, Washington quickly. Again, Tennessee side, Derrick Henry's the guy you want to play there. I think Robert Woods is fine. Do you like Nick Westbrook-Ikine? Do you like Kyle Phillips if you're looking for a number 2 receiver there in Tennessee?
I mean, really depends how you define like.
Right. Usable, viable. Would you play him?
Viable. I think viable is probably the best bet there. The thing with Kyle Phillips, he's the one that's actually more risky in my opinion, because he only played 2 snaps last week. It's going to be Robert Woods and Nick Westbrook-Ikine on the outsides, and then Phillips is going to play in the slot. We don't know if that's going to be every snap or it's going to be half the snaps, or if it's going to be not very many of the snaps like it was last week. So I do trust Nick Westbrook-Ikine, even though some might consider that more the boring play. But if you're in those deep leagues, start him. Like if you're in Scott Fishbowl, we got to start 11 dudes. That guy's probably a guy you're starting.
Yeah, for sure. And we talked about Washington already. It's all systems go for a lot of their guys. Brian Robinson is going to play about 20 snaps today. Downgrade Antonio Gibson. I don't know if you can use Robinson. So here's my thing. I think Robinson will get some red zone carries. So I think there could be some value to him because that was what his initial role expectation was. He was going to be that short yardage red zone guy. They could give him some of those early looks. So if you wanted to throw a dart at Ryan Robinson this week, I think that's fine. But I do like the receivers. Terry McLaurin is one of my favorite plays today going up against this Tennessee defense. I think he's stackable with Carson Wentz. Curtis Samuel, we know as well. A guy that can catch the football. A lot of targets go his way. Jahan Dotson being ruled out could give him some added value along with Logan Thomas. We keep seeing his snap count increase and is more involved in the passing offense last week. Commanders, I think teams are going to be down on because of their last 2 games against tough defenses in Philly and in Dallas. I think this is a great spot for a bounce back here from the Commanders. And we have a question pertaining to Curtis Samuel in a standard league. Need to start 2, Deontay Johnson, Amari Cooper, or Curtis Samuel, Coop?
Honestly, because if this were a PPR league, I would say Curtis Samuel, but in standard, he's just not as appealing. Guy gets 10 targets, has 48 yards. I mean, I don't love that. So I think I'm going to start Deontay Johnson and Amari Cooper. Or, with John Dotson out, is that enough for you to go with Curtis Samuel? The thing is, with him out, I don't think it makes Curtis Samuel run deeper routes. And the guy's getting 10 targets. I mean, what are they going to give him, 15? I don't know.
Yeah.
So.
No, I agree. I agree with you. I like that he did score a touchdown in week 1. I do think that when they get in the red zone, there's some of that viability because they run those shorter routes with him, and you get him inside the 5, you run a wide receiver screener, and he also, as we talked about, he does carry the football. Now, last week, Coop, when we were on here, we talked about Curtis Samuel's rushing prop of 9.5 yards. A lot of our chat was saying take the over, and he got no carries. So we'll see if Curtis Samuel can get the over on his rushing yard prop here today.
He got no carries. He got no carries because you jinxed him. That's why he got no carries.
Listen, we talked about it. I'm like, I would feel stupid taking your rushing prop on a wide receiver, and then he doesn't get any carries for the first week.
I blame you. I don't blame the chat. I put that one on you, John. You threw the hex. You threw the hex on him.
Another Jonathan has a question for players we've discussed already. Jonathan Tapia over on YouTube. Hawkinson, Goddard. He's playing Amon-Ra St. Brown already in a half PPR.
I'm starting Goddard, man. Goddard and Ertz. I moved them both up in my rankings just because I think that game is the highest probability of being a shootout. I think that game is the one where the teams are most evenly matched. The over-under is high. That could be this week's Seahawks versus Lions, right? So, and Arizona, I don't know what's going on with Isaiah Simmons, but he's been brutally bad.
Yeah.
The Cardinals are the 31st team against the tight end, with only the Patriots being worse because they've let up 5 touchdowns. The Patriots have, which is crazy because those teams the last 2 years were both top 5 against the tight end. So it's great. We have to go with what we see, what we know, and I think Goddard's in a pretty safe spot that also provides upside, which is all you can ask for in this world.
Yep, I agree with you. We have the Giants on the 6-yard line, Coop. Just a big pass play over to Slayton. Slayton now has 3 catches for 45 yards. Barkley 7 for 55. We're at the 2-minute warning of this first half. Giants down 17-3 to the Packers. But again, the Giants are first and goal at the 6. If I am the Giants, I run Saquon Barkley 4 times.
Every play.
And see if he can get you 6 yards there. Because why
I don't care if he loses 10 yards on the first play. Just go back. Just give that guy the ball, man. 6 yards. He can get 6 yards in 4 plays. And you cannot kick a field goal here.
It would seem pretty difficult to think that they would stuff him all 4 carries, 6 yards, but maybe we'll see.
First and goal, they go 5 wide, John. First and goal.
Shotgun.
And then they motion Saquon into the backfield.
You got the game on. You watching what's going on there?
I'm watching kind of out of the corner of my eye, so I'll let you know what I see over here.
Yeah, see if they do a little shotgun draw to him. Chicago, Minnesota 7.5 point favorites here. 43.5 game total in this game here. What are our thoughts on the Bears Vikings matchup? Again, there's not much in terms of like questions when it comes to the Vikings offense. We know who gets the football. Chicago side of things. Finally saw some signs of life out of Darnell Mooney. David Montgomery expected to be back today. Cole Kmet I've seen dropped all over fantasy football. Do we think the Bears are figuring it out a little bit? Like, how are we approaching this game today?
Here's what I'll tell you about the Bears, man. This team is throwing the ball historically low. 16.75 attempts per game. We've not seen that in 30 years. Teams do not average less than 20 attempts per game. And last week, we saw a microcosm of what it might look like if this team was actually throwing the ball a little bit, right? Like 22 attempts is not that much, and Darnell Mooney had a pretty good game. Cole Kmet had 3 receptions. Like if this team actually had games where they were throwing 30 or 40 times like a normal team, then you would probably see normal games out of Cole Kmet and Darnell Mooney. Right now, you can only kind of throw them in a DFS lineup and just try and be sneaky. Hard to start them in real leagues unless it's very deep. But keep that in the back of your mind that there is a possibility that this team regresses to the mean in a normal way. They've played the teams that muddle the game as much as possible so far. They played the 49ers. They played the Texans. They played the Giants. Yeah. this week they play the Vikings. You can't just run the ball against the Vikings. The one thing that I will say for Justin Fields, throw the ball. He needs to throw the football. You look at guys, and the thing is, sometimes you can blame it on play calling. In this case, you can't, because most quarterbacks, when they drop back, right, they throw the ball on 90% of dropbacks, which you would think is normal because, you might throw it away a couple times, you might get sacked, and that's why it's not 100%, but you're dropping back to throw the football. The mobile quarterbacks, they're maybe in the 80% range because you have scrambles. He's only throwing the ball on 67% of his dropbacks. They called 36 pass plays. He only threw it 22 times last week.
Is that because he's been sacked? He's getting sacked, or the receivers aren't getting open? He's got to run.
It's sacks, it's scrambles that aren't really going very far, and then it's him throwing the ball away where, sites like Pro Football Focus and the ones that we depend on, they don't even count those as targets. Like if you just throw it out of bounds or throw it at the running back's feet, that doesn't count as a target. 1/3 of his plays end that way. This guy, throw the ball, Justin. Let's go.
We knew the offensive line was going to be a problem with Chicago going into this year, but we thought maybe they would use some of his mobility to kind of roll him out, get him in some spots where he is able to use his mobility to help the passing offense. But if nobody's getting open and the offensive line is giving him zero time, then that's a pretty big struggle there. So we'll see what happens with that one there. We got a question again: Josh Reynolds or Jarvis Landry, games we've hit on already. So let me ask you, which one are you going with?
Josh Reynolds or Jarvis Landry? Josh Reynolds has been banged up a little bit. So is Jarvis Landry. Oh man, that is tough. I think we do like this matchup for Washington. I'm sorry for no, actually, the Patriots have some of the best corners in the league according to the.
They do, yeah.
So I'm going Jarvis Landry. I'm going Jarvis Landry.
Yep, I think you got to go Jarvis Landry there as well. We just got a touchdown, Coop. Daniel Bellinger touchdown catch for the Giants.
There it is, dude. That's interesting because he's the one that is more of the blocking tight end. This is like the Mercedes Lewis scoring the touchdown instead of Robert Tonyan. And the touchdown, it was a touchdown on an end around.
Oh, they ran it?
Yeah, it was a double reverse play. So Daniel Bellinger on a double looked like a reverse. Pretty cool play.
Nice. I've seen. I just quickly glanced at it, saw the Bellinger touchdown. So
looked like a reverse. I just saw the replay.
Yes, they didn't. We're on the Giants game, the Bears game rather. Pacheco or Herbert today, Coop? That's a toughie. Herbert, we know with Montgomery back. I don't know if we can really go there, but both of those guys are kind of splitting work there. Pacheco did get more carries last week, but again, they were up big in that game.
They were up big, and Pacheco only played 17 snaps. They because of the game script, they ran 80 plays. He only played 17. So for me, I'm going with Herbert. I mean, you got the upside of a guy, David Montgomery, who's already a little banged up. Sometimes those guys try to play and they just say, you know what, I can't play. So I give your. It's even enough if both David Montgomery and Clyde Edwards-Helaire were fully healthy, I would consider this even. But because David Montgomery is a little banged up, I'm going to go with Herbert.
Yep. And then we got a question asking from Roach Cheetah here about Alvin Kamara today. One of my favorite plays, got to put him in your lineup. You got to have him in there. He's 6,600 on DraftKings. I love it. Big PPR spot. Andy Dalton, I think, is going to be looking to throw to him a lot. We know Michael Thomas, so I'm in.
Hey, Nick Durst in the chat. I see Nick Durst. Ring the bell for Bellinger. Coop lowballing him for his tight end rankings. Nick, let me know how many tickets you just cashed for Daniel Bellinger rushing touchdown today. Good call on that one, dude. I didn't see that one coming. I think that's why I had him too low, Nick. So yeah, good call on that one.
Yeah, we got a defense question here, Coop. Dallas, Philly, or Jacksonville today?
Dude, can't start Dallas against the Rams. Can't start Philly against
So let me ask you: can you start Dallas against the Rams?
I guess you can.
Matthew
But
Stafford hasn't scored a touchdown in 2 weeks.
Jags Texans though.
Dallas
gets Rams. Jags get the Texans. That's the question for me.
That's true. That's fine.
I think it's if you put it this way. If you have to drop someone to pick up the Jags, just start Dallas. Don't drop Dallas's defense. They're too good of a defense. So don't drop them to pick up the Jags. But if you can afford to hold three defenses or whatever you got going on, hold all three and start the Jags. But you have the Cowboys and Eagles defense. If you just have the two defenses, Cowboys and Eagles, you're probably good for the rest of the season. Start the Cowboys this week, start the Eagles in good matchups for them, and just keep living your life. So don't drop it. Don't drop either defense for the Jags. But if you have the luxury to start anyone you want, maybe the Jags. Maybe if it's DFS, start the Jags.
Yeah. San Francisco 49ers going across to Carolina here. Panthers are getting 6.5 points at home, 42.5 game total in this one. 49ers, as we've talked about with Jimmy G now under center, we kind of know where the ball is going. Deebo Samuel, Jeff Wilson. You've been tweeting a lot about George Kittle this week, though. A lot of people are down on him. He is the top priced tight end over on DraftKings this week. Are we ever expecting the George Kittle of old to show up, or is this just where we're at now when it comes to Kittle, snap count, and the way they're being using him?
I think people are forgetting the way that George Kittle operates, right? Like, not all these guys are built the same. Darren Waller, you always started him because he had the upside of having 15 targets in any given game. That's why you started him. He always had bad games. Same with George Kittle. He always had some games where the game script didn't go in his favor. But the reason you start this guy is that he has the upside of monster plays at any given time. Over the last 5 years, no tight end has more 40-plus yard big chunk plays than George Kittle. He has 12. Travis Kelce has 10. No other active player even has – the next highest active player has 5. I think it's like Gerald Everett and Evan Ingram over their entire career have 5. He has 12. And he has 3 plays of over 75 yards, including a couple 80-yard plays, which nobody else has. That's the beauty of George Kittle. He's going to have these monster games, and the blocking helps him with that. People say it's too much. He's blocking on only 10% of his pass plays this year. In 2019, he was blocking on 15% of his pass plays, and he was tight end like 2. So yeah. George Kittle, for me, it's such a small sample size. He's only played 2 games. Get him in your lineup this week and just see what happens. All right.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to go about it here. Deebo Samuel is one of my favorite, I think, low roster DFS plays over on FanDuel today. Deebo Samuel is actually priced kind of down given the way they kind of price out their guys. So I'm a big fan of Deebo here against Carolina. On the Carolina side, we finally got that passing work out of Christian McCaffrey, but this is a really tough matchup for him against San Francisco. I think San Francisco defense here against Carolina could be pretty strong. My one problem is that Baker Mayfield's not really turning the football over. He's not playing well, but he's not turning the ball over either. So I don't know how many points San Francisco can hang up there if he's not putting up picks.
Yeah, he's not really doing anything. Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, no, he's not doing anything at all. Cooper's quick circle down back to the Tampa Bay game because as I'm scrolling through some updates on Twitter, someone retweeted Antonio Brown, who tweeted out an image. Daddy doesn't live here anymore. It's a book about divorce. So Antonio Brown's still out there trolling Tom Brady. I don't know if Tom Brady takes personal offenses to those things or not, but maybe extra motivation for Mr. Brady there against
Antonio Brown's such a loser, dude.
Yeah.
He really truly is. Like, well, like this guy, he was the number 1 wide receiver in fantasy football PPR for 4 straight seasons, and he managed to take that, which should be Hall of Fame career, and turn himself into a joke. So yeah, embarrassing that guy.
Blame Montez Perfect, maybe. We'll see. See if that actually
embarrassing. All right, we're getting close here, John. Let's rapid fire some games.
Yeah, we got some more things. So we got Dallas Rams. We got a question in that game: Zeke, Pollard, Akers, Henderson, or Robinson. He needs 2. I don't know if this is a showdown slate or not, but Love 74 got to get 2 of those guys.
Zeke, Pollard. Well, I'm starting Zeke over Pollard, so take Pollard out. Akers, yep. Henderson. Henderson's
or
getting
Robinson.
Or James Robinson.
Allen Robinson.
Oh, Allen Robinson. No.
I think it's a showdown. I think he's asking showdown question, but
yeah, that sounds like a showdown question. I'm starting Zeke and Darrell Henderson.
Darrell Henderson over Akers, huh? Interesting.
I mean, it boils down to Akers gets more work on so Darrell Henderson played 37 pass plays, Akers only played 18, and they both split the carries. So if it's a positive game script game, you start Akers. If it's a negative game script game, you start Darrell Henderson. And I think that the Cowboys are a good team. I'm starting Darrell Henderson.
Yeah, that's fine. I can swing that. I think Dallas is an interesting defensive play. It's so weird to me that the Rams are giving 5.5 here as bad as they have looked. We just saw them get embarrassed by the 49ers last week. Dallas has looked really good, and yet the Rams are a home favorite today. That's either a trap, but Dallas is nearly a min-price defense on DraftKings. They lead the league in sacks. They turn the football over. I got him in some in GPP lineups today. I don't know how the consensus is going to feel about that, but that's kind of a spot I'm going. A couple of questions here, Coop, that we need to get to here. They got Amari Cooper, Alvin Kamara, Jamal Williams in a full PPR.
Oh my goodness. Got to start Jamal Williams. Oddly, he's like the running back 3 in half PPR, and DeAndre's. Well, it's against the Pats, but I mean, would you trust Kamara or Amari Cooper over Jamal Williams right now?
I would probably play Kamara.
Yeah. Well, he is Alvin Kamara.
I would play Kamara over Jamal Williams this week. Now that
it's a bad matchup for Williams. It's a good run defense with the Patriots. So yeah.
Yeah. Right, and Kamara against Seattle. We just saw what Jamal Williams did against Seattle. So give me
that's if that's your flex question, then that team you have must be awesome.
Let's see. Need a big game for my flex. Do I start Renfrow, Juju, or Najee Harris today? Najee Harris against Buffalo, Juju against the Raiders, but questionable Renfrow on the flip side against Kansas City.
Is this a full PPR situation?
Doesn't say.
Oof. None of those guys are super exciting. Najee's got such a bad matchup. I don't know, John. Does anybody jump off the page to you out of this crew?
I'm gonna play Renfrow.
I think I like Renfrow too. I wanted to say it, but I wanted you to say it first.
Yeah, well, yes.
Full PPR, Renfrow. Yeah.
And then PPR league, got to sit one, Lockett, McLaurin, or Pierce. We like both wide receivers. What are your thoughts on Pierce against Jacksonville?
I think you cannot sit Tyler Lockett right now. And McLaurin with no Jahan Dotson's a boost. So I think I would sit Dameon Pierce.
Yep, I'm with you that one as well.
They're -7. They're 7-point dogs, and running is the luxury of the winning team. And they still do use Rex Burkhead in some pass plays. So I don't know about Dameon Pierce right now.
Yep. Quickly get to these other games here before we wrap it up. Philadelphia, Arizona, Cardinals getting 5.5 as a home underdog, 48.5 game total here. I'm surprised to see the high total. Eagles defense has been nails, number 1 defense in fantasy so far this season. Getting them in a dome. Jalen Hurts and that offense has been all over the place in terms of putting out production. Arizona's been slumping, but they've managed to come through at the end of games. How are we feeling this week about the Arizona Cardinals?
Yeah, I think they badly need DeAndre Hopkins back because teams are just sitting back in coverage. I went to the game when I was out in Arizona, and teams are just sitting back and saying, go ahead and throw it underneath. And Kyler Murray's saying, okay, and throwing 17 times to Marquise Brown, just throwing it to Zach Ertz. They have nobody to stretch the field. So they need Hopkins back. Maybe Rondale Moore can help there, but he's not a very big player. He just is another one of those underneath guys. Greg Dortch was getting 1 million targets. They need to figure out how to stretch the field, or they're just going to fall into the same trap that has been beating them. And the Eagles are the perfect team to set that trap. So I like the Eagles to win for sure. And I would say they cover that spread too.
Yeah, and the Eagles, at least we know the offense is fairly straightforward. It's Hurts, it's AJ Brown, Alec Goddard, Devonta Smith, no real strange to what's going on there. And last week in the weather, Miles Sanders finally came through for us. Miles Sanders is a flex play. I think you can certainly throw out there. Tough to trust week to week, but he did find the end zone again. 3 touchdowns already this year, Coop, after none last year. Good stuff on that one. Sunday Night Football, Cincinnati versus Baltimore here. Baltimore 3.5-point favorite, 47.5 game total. Another offense where we kind of know where the football is going with Baltimore. No Rashad Bateman. J.K. Dobbins had a big game last week. Mark Andrews, we know, of course, looking to bounce back. Cincinnati, my one note on the Cincinnati Bengals last year, Joe Burrow against the Ravens threw for 500 yards and 400 yards in the 2 games.
Right. Yeah, and the Ravens have not been good at covering guys this year so far. So, I mean, you get all those guys in your lineup where you can. Obviously, Higgins and Chase, you start everywhere. Boyd, you start where you have to.
Yep, I agree with you.
Monday night?
Yep, go ahead.
Oh, you got it, buddy.
Yeah, last game, Monday Night Football, Raiders, Kansas City Chiefs here, 9.5-point favorites at home. Kansas City, 45.5 game total. Renfrow going to play in this one. Juju questionable. One quick thought here on this one, Coop, and we'll see if we can get a couple questions before we end this one.
If the Raiders don't win, then they're in big trouble because they're going to be 1-4. Yikes.
Yep, I agree with you on that one here. Again, we just got a field goal in this game for Green Bay at halftime, 20-10. Green Bay over the Giants. Big injury news again for today. Amon-Ra St. Brown's going to be in. We already know that Keenan Allen has been ruled out for this one for today as well. No Michael Thomas, Jameis Winston, doubtful for today. Brian Robinson is in for the Washington Commanders. Andy Dalton going to start for the Saints today against Seattle. Kyle Pitts has been ruled out. Traylon Burks is out. Jahan Dotson's out. A lot to go on. This is the Game Day Playbook presented by Fantasy Alarm on the Bettor Sports Network. Front Yard Fantasy coming up next. Stick with the program. We'll catch you guys next week.